I am cultivating an immortal in the game arena. Introduction. Task. Refining 100 Gu cast Yuan Dan, reward. Basic Alchemy Part 1, A Wishing Star, task. Craft a perfect purple cloud pill and reward 1 alchemy secret recipe. Task. Feed this stove full and reward alchemy secrets. Zhang Jun looked at the red coffin in front of him. After 3 seconds of contemplation, he silently took out a homemade bomb and said, I believe you're a ghost. Chapter 1. Antique Game Console. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Golden Apples. Emperor's Private Room. Men and women shook their bodies to the fullest, dancing to the rhythm of the music. Their snow-white thighs, sweaty chest muscles, feminine charm, and male hormones intertwined to create a madly intoxicating vortex. Suddenly, a woman's scream came from the bathroom. Following a woman stumbled out of the bathroom, a large amount of blood stains spread from her neck to her chest. The private room was still playing wildly, and everyone was scared to death when they saw this scene. Run, what run? Get back to me. The young man walked out of the bathroom carrying his pants, wiped away the blood from the corners of his mouth, walked to the table, and picked up a bottle of wine to pour into his mouth. Cough. The young man coughed, and the bright red blood immediately dyed the baijiu in the bottle into red wine. June, stop drinking, stop drinking. A few fox friends came forward and pulled his arm. Get lost. Zhang Jun shook off his arm. Extend your finger and say, you still owe me a lot of money, pay me back. The accused young man's face immediately became embarrassed. The young man continued to point down at the fat man next to him and said, you've always said to treat me to dinner. What about this meal? Please, Yunga, whatever you want to eat, just let me know and I will arrange it right away. Hee, I just like you being able to talk, there's no need to arrange. You can settle for today. Today. Li Pengzi turned around and glanced at the bottles of spades A on the table, his face turning green. And you, that slut, dare you run? Tomorrow, someone will tie you up in the restroom for RBQ. The private room gradually quieted down, and everyone looked at the former god of wealth in front of them, their eyes changing from initially pleasing to humble and frightened. No one knows what illness this god of wealth is suffering from today. Why aren't you talking? Hee, there's no money, right? Okay. Zhang Jun shook the wine bottle that had turned into red wine in his hand and handed it to Li Pengzi's face in front of him. Drink it, and I'll let you go. Li Pengzi, with a bitter face, took the wine and looked at the blood-stained wine inside, wearing a mask of pain on his face. The girl who was previously pointed at as a slut stepped forward and grabbed Zhang Jun's arm, saying, Jun, are you feeling unwell? Why don't I take you to the hospital? Go to the hospital. Zhang Jun stared at her. Yunga. The woman was staring at him with hair on her hair, wanting to step back, but Zhang Jun reached out and pinched her chin, carefully examining her beautiful face before suddenly laughing. Okay, my heart, liver, spleen, and lungs are almost rotten. How about you donate some to me? Yunga. The woman trembled. Seeing the woman believing it to be true, Zhang Jun became annoyed and pushed her away, saying, Fool, if you dare to donate, I dare not take it. After speaking, ignoring the strange gazes of the crowd, he casually smashed the wine bottle in his hand onto the nearby TV. Fatty guy, this is also yours. After speaking, ignoring Li Pengzi's surprised gaze, he walked out of the door in a daze. Everyone wanted to stop them, but no one had the courage because this is the property of the Zhang family, and to deal with them, Zhang Jun didn't need to take action. Brother Zhang. The gatekeeper respectfully pushed open the glass door. Zhang Jun walked to the door and took out a cigarette from his pocket and put it on his lips. I fumbled around but couldn't find the lighter. But by this time, the doorman had already brought the fire to the front. Zhang Jun lowered his head and lit the cigarette. His pu, glancing up and down at the gatekeeper, he seemed to be of the same age as himself, but his face had a different greenness than his own. Just graduated. No, I'm still taking the postgraduate entrance exam. I'll take a part-time job. Zhang Jun took a puff of smoke into the other person's face and jokingly asked, if you knew you were going to die, what would you do? Ah. The gatekeeper clearly didn't expect Zhang Jun to ask him such a strange question, and couldn't help but feel a bit confused. But he answered very seriously, I want to accompany my mother. Accompanying family, standard answer. Zhang Jun took a fierce puff of his cigarette and said, so, if you want to die, it's precisely your so-called family. Where are your relatives? This question clearly carries strong malice. Surprisingly, the gatekeeper did not loudly deny as he had imagined, but silently pulled up his own clothes. On his lower abdomen, a 30-centimeter scar lay on it like a crooked centipede. 6 years ago, my mother gave me one of her kidneys. Zhang Jun's cigarette dangling from his mouth shook for a moment. 2 years ago, in order to support my education, my uncle sold all the cows, sheep, and pigs in his family. And... Okay, brother, you're happy, you're amazing. Zhang Jun immediately signaled to the boy not to say anything more. He usually flaunts his wealth to others, but he didn't expect to die soon. Instead, he was met with a fierce glare from a gatekeeper. Yeah, I'm showing off. He is a bit jealous of being flashy. A long time ago, I felt a bit uncomfortable. After going to the hospital for a check-up, I couldn't find anything except for a slight kidney deficiency. But my body is getting worse and worse. Until recently, I started to have nosebleeds, which gradually became more and more severe. After going to the largest provincial hospital, I realized that my internal organs were rapidly deteriorating. This kind of exhaustion is irreversible. In the following days, I only have 2 situations. Perhaps I wake up from sleep. Perhaps not waking up at all. What made him feel even more chilly was when he was in a coma and heard the conversation between his grandfather and others. Only then did I realize that my grandfather, father, and even the entire family had long known about my illness. It was not until then that he realized that the business at home was very poor when he was born. So a gentleman was invited. However, this gentleman is not a kind person. He took half of their family property and told his grandfather a solution. It's just using one's own life to prolong the wealth and prosperity of the family. Because one's own destiny is the most special, it is fortunate for Gengxin, and it is the favorite of ghosts and gods. It is best to offer oneself as a sacrifice. Thinking of the relatives in the hospital who usually respond to their requests, their eyes are filled with ridicule, regret, and schadenfreude. Even wishing to die early. The strong sense of loneliness and despair made him feel suffocating. Keep your head down and walk along the roadside. He didn't know where to go either, but suddenly felt envious of that doorman in his heart. Isn't it true that good people don't pay for their lives, and disasters persist for 1,000 years? I haven't done anything good or good either. Zhang Jun followed the direction of the crowd aimlessly, and as he looked up, he found himself unconsciously walking into a small alley. At 1 o'clock in the morning, there were actually many people setting up street stalls in the alley, and there were even more people on the street than during the day. Ghost City. I've heard before that there's a ghost market behind this street, but I've never been to this place before. Why did you walk here in a daze? Since everyone has come, Zhang Jun doesn't intend to turn around and go home. On the contrary, he finds this place quite interesting. Strolling along with the crowd, walking forward. Give me some more, these things are all good things, you see how well they are preserved. No, this thing from the 1970s is not considered an antique, I really can't give it. In front of the stall, one can occasionally hear the sound of bargaining. The things on the street stall really gave him a refreshing feeling. There were many antiques, regardless of their authenticity, and he didn't have that interest either. It was those inconspicuous little things, such as tin frogs, four-wheel drive racing cars, kaleidoscopes, yo-yo balls, and so on, that made Zhang Jun feel particularly friendly. Of course, there are also some old things, such as badges, medals, etc., but as the two bargaining parties mentioned earlier, these things are not considered antiques. Zhang Jun was not very interested in these things, and after wandering around, he didn't see any rare items until he walked to a small furniture stall where a special item attracted Zhang Jun. Behind a pile of discarded furniture, an arcade over a meter high was thrown into the corner. There is still a deep red wallpaper pasted on the arcade, but the character portraits on it have become blurred. This thing. Zhang Jun looked at this old antique and remembered that it seemed like a game console from a long time ago. When he was a child, he used to play with his family's money in Hall B. At that time, it seemed like I was still in elementary school. A carefree age. Recalling his childhood, Zhang Jun rarely showed a long-lost smile on his face. Turn around and walk straight to this machine. Can this machine still play? Zhang Jun pointed to the machine and said. The boss glanced up and down at Zhang Jun, shook his head, and said, I don't know. I'll pack the old furniture and give it away. I have a plug here. If you want to buy it, I'll give it a try. If it breaks, it's fine. Forget it. Zhang Jun shook his head, too lazy to try. The boss misunderstood for a moment, thinking that the business was going bad and didn't say anything, but at this moment, a stack of banknotes was handed directly to the boss. I'll take the things, including the tricycle behind you. The boss's eyes widened as he looked at the thick banknotes in his hand. Even with a tricycle, there wouldn't be so much. Only a fool would find it troublesome to have too much money. He immediately accepted the money with a pleasing expression and said, okay, I'll help you move it up. The boss enthusiastically moved the game console onto the tricycle and didn't forget to tie it up with a rope. Hooking. In the darkness, Zhang Jun shook his hands and got on the handlebars, panting heavily. Under his control, the tricycle seemed to wobble, as if it could overturn at any moment. On the contrary, Zhang Jun's face showed an excited expression. In his eyes, luxury cars were not as fresh as this tricycle. When I was a child, my family's business was average, and my father often rode a broken tricycle to deliver goods. In my impression, I always wanted to ride that tricycle, but at that time my father would never let him touch it. Later on, as I grew older, my family's business suddenly became booming and I never saw that tricycle again. Riding on it at this moment, Zhang Jun felt like he had returned to his childhood, back to that carefree childhood, but the difference was that this time he successfully rode this tricycle. Cough cough. The intense exercise had already caused a burning sensation in his abdomen, and he opened his mouth to spit out a mouthful of thick phlegm with blood, casually wiping the corners of his lips. Zhang Jun grinned and instead stood up and kicked harder. The cool breeze brushed against his cheeks, and the feeling of breaking free from constraints made him even more excited. Even unconsciously, he began to have nosebleeds, and he didn't care. Occasionally, pedestrians on the roadside would turn their heads and look at this young man covered in famous brands with a strange expression. While wiping the blood off his face, he wobbled and pedaled a broken tricycle, humming a tune with a leisurely expression in his mouth. Damn it, this person may not be taking drugs, right? Not taking drugs is also a madman. Pedestrians on the roadside silently shook their heads, and some even took out their phones to take pictures. Zhang Jun had noticed it a long time ago, but he didn't care. He just wanted to go back and play games early now. Fortunately, the apartment he lived in was not far from here, but even so, when Zhang Jun arrived home, he still felt like he was about to die. I quickly took my medicine and lay down on the sofa to rest for a while before recovering. After washing his face, Zhang Jun carefully wiped the game console, especially after repeatedly wiping every button clean, and then plugged it in. ZZ. The display screen of the game console flickered a few times, gradually becoming clearer from the snowflake screen in Zhang Jun's expectant gaze. Let me take a look. Zhang Jun tried shaking his joystick to enter the game options. At first glance, there are quite a few games. Zhang Jun casually opened a familiar-looking game and started playing it. In no time, all that remained in the room was the sound of playing games. Double Dragon, Dragon Tiger Fighter, Quick Whirlwind. These old games, although not very innovative, Zhang Jun enjoys playing them tirelessly. Until the sky gradually brightened, Zhang Jun also felt a bit tired and drowsy, but he still didn't want to sleep. His face, Mu Ran, searched through the black and white directory. At this moment, a line of crimson text in the directory appeared in his sight. God and Demon Arena, do you still have this game? Zhang Jun rubbed his eyes and casually clicked the confirm button on UU reading www.uukangshu.net. Sha. The screen in front of him went black, and Zhang Jun thought it was stuck. After a few more clicks of the confirm button, white snowflakes began to float on the black screen, followed by a row of red blood stains that appeared in front of Zhang Jun. The blood stains turned into crooked handwriting. The two realms of righteousness and evil fought endlessly, causing turmoil in heaven and earth, causing mountains and rivers to collapse. Therefore, they entrusted the gods and demons of the heavens to build an arena to facilitate both sides in setting bets and resolving disputes. This style of using narration to explain the background first gives Zhang Jun a feeling of watching Hong Kong films in the 1980s. The blood stains were twisted and twisted, eventually turning into a bright red snake coiled in front of the display screen. The moment the venomous snake lifted its head, Zhang Jun was immediately startled, feeling that the snake looked like a 3D effect, especially realistic. Can this old antique still have this effect? Zhang Jun remained unmoved by the technical principle of this thing, but he was greatly shocked. Silk. The venomous snake swallowed the snake's message, and two words appeared below. One red and one white. Written in white as, positive, the red letter reads evil. Is this choosing a camp? Zhang Jun tried to shake the joystick and chose the cult faction. Playing games, who else would want to be a good person? Just be a bad person. After confirming the camp, Zhang Jun slammed his finger heavily on the confirmation button. Pa zzz. The lights in the apartment flickered on and off. Zhang Jun felt a tingling sensation in his fingers. Before he could reach and pull his hand, a scorching electric current instantly surged throughout his body. However, he felt powerless all over and his consciousness became blurred. Chapter 2. God and Demon Arena. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Zhang Jun opened his eyes, the noisy shouts and strong smell of blood around him made him feel an urge to open his mouth and vomit. Look around with both eyes. I was actually in a place similar to an arena, with at least 4 or 5 football field-sized arenas in front of me. Surrounded by an arena-like audience, there were densely packed figures. The huge cheers and noise came like a tsunami. Kill, kill, kill. Amidst waves of shouting and killing, a young man holding a long sword knelt and pressed his knees against the girl's arms on the arena below. Holding a long sword, screaming and urging from here, he fiercely plunged the blade into the throat of the girl in front of him. For a moment, blood flowed like a torrent, splattering on the boy's face. Suddenly, a huge cheer followed around. Zhang Jun widened his eyes and looked surprised for a moment. Is this a time travel? He looked at the immortal figures in the opposite audience. I looked around again at the environment around me, which was like a gladiatorial arena. And the clothes on the people around me, those gloomy faces, each with a fierce and malevolent appearance. Welcome to the God and Demon Arena. Task. Participate in a competitive competition. Reward. 3 wishing stars and the ability to return to reality at any time. Arena, righteous path, evil path. Zhang Jun pondered for a few seconds, then remembered the words he said when he entered the game. This is the gaming world. Go back. The fool just returned, I wish I could stay here forever. Zhang Jun took a deep breath, feeling light all over. The torment of the illness finally disappeared, and it was only at this moment that he felt alive, rather than walking like a zombie in reality. At this moment, the young man who appeared to have achieved victory on stage staggered forward a few steps. There is a pile of pottery jars placed there. Most of the pottery jars have already been smashed, leaving only the last 2 pottery jars. Now everyone also began to hold their breath, quietly watching the boy's choice. The boy looked at the 2 jars and without hesitation, directly chose the jar on the left. Pop! At the moment the pottery jar shattered, a dark cloud surged up from it. The next second, the young man rolled his eyes and lay straight back, without breathing anymore. Ha! How could this be? The girl from the heavenly pavilion, didn't she clearly calculate that this jar contains the antidote? Before Zhang Jun could understand what was going on, he heard a sound of suspicion coming from beside him. Looking sideways, there are 3 teenagers standing beside them. Their clothes are the same as their own. It seems that they should be brothers of the same sect. The 3 of them are currently discussing the process of this showdown with each other. Zhang Jun stood by and listened for a while before understanding what was going on. The original way of dueling in the arena was not only to kill the opponent, but also to complete the corresponding rules. The rule this time is to smash the pottery jar. According to the rules, 2 cans will be given each time. The next round of jars will only appear after being smashed. There are a total of 6 rounds and 12 pottery jars, but each jar corresponds to a type of poison. Poison may be strong or weak. Weak may only cause immediate diarrhea. Strong ones may not be fatal, but they are definitely unbearable. However, as the poison in the jar accumulates and hits the 6th jar, various toxins mix together to produce a deadly poison that can kill the throat. In the last round of 2 jars, there must be 1 jar that is a detoxifying talisman, and the other jar that is highly poisonous. At first, the 2 were fine, but the girl was a disciple of the heavenly mending pavilion and proficient in divination techniques. Knocked down all the way, always able to avoid the heavy and avoid the light. The youth is already on the verge of collapse. Finally persevering until the end, as the young girl had already chosen the jar, he couldn't help but unleash the killer. The disciples of Butian Gu are not good at fierce fighting, even if the young man is more poisoned than her, they are still defeated and killed in the end. But who would have thought that when the boys smashed the jar chosen by the girl with hope, it was filled with highly poisonous substances. This result made everyone sigh. Some even suspect that this may be intentional behavior by the young girl, knowing that no matter how she chooses, the young man will definitely kill him, so she deliberately chose the wrong pottery jar and died together with the young man. Senior brother, this game should be considered a tie, right? Well, no one wins, it's a tie. Unfortunately, with a bet of 3,000 spirit stones, if this junior brother can win, not only can his cultivation be further improved, but with 3,000 spirit stones, he may be able to stand out. Suddenly, someone widened their eyes and pointed below. No, look. Everyone looked sideways at the words and was immediately taken aback. I saw the woman with her throat pierced through, trembling as she climbed up from the ground. Blood had already dyed her clothes red, and every step she took left a bright red blood mark on the ground. Both the demon path and the righteous path on the opposite side were moved by this. Damn it, this girl pretends to be dead. The disciples of the demon road were momentarily stunned, and their expressions were also different. Some people admire it, some speak sarcastically, and even more so, they have started to curse loudly. But these did not affect the girl's firm steps. She swayed her body and walked step by step to the last jar. She glanced at the body of the young man on the ground and expressionlessly threw the last jar to the ground. Pop! The jar shattered in response, and a golden talisman flew out of it, piercing into the girl's forehead. It can be seen that the girl's body swayed, and a black mist quickly dissipated behind her, which was the various toxic substances accumulated before. It's hard to imagine how a delicate woman, burdened with so much poison and experiencing the pain of piercing her throat, managed to persevere to this point. Winning. Watching the young girl narrowly win, the audience across from them all shouted in awe. Someone even jumped up and appeared next to the girl in the blink of an eye, stopping her bleeding and healing her wounds. Compared to the cheers and cheers of the righteous people in front of them, the devil's side cannot be said to be as distressed as grief, but it can't help but feel a bit heartbroken. I only heard the young man next to me, who was suspected to be my senior brother, lower his head and secretly resent. 3,000 spirit stones, how many treasures can you exchange in the arena, cheap servant, dog shit luck. Zhang Jun frowned and turned around to take a glance at this guy. The other person had yellow hair all over his head, a thin and emaciated figure, muttering to himself, but he didn't notice that Zhang Jun had silently taken a few steps away from this guy. After the girl was sent down, there were lively shouts and mockery on both sides. Zhang Jun watched the excitement. This battle can be seen in the Chinese Super League. While both sides were cursing at each other, Zhang Jun re-evaluated himself. This body was even younger than his real self, not only light but also with strong strength. There are still some fragmented pieces of information in my mind. Zhao Ju. Gather a layer of gas. Practice technique. Blood Sha Gong. The information was too scattered, and before Zhang Jun could carefully organize and digest it, a loud bell rang in his ear, waking him up. Dong. The deep ringing of bells suppressed the restlessness in the arena. Following closely, a host wearing a white mask walked to the middle of the arena. Taking out a piece of white paper from his wide sleeve, he solemnly read out. The next battle will be between Wushanmen and Qinyan sect, with each side having their own private grudges. The winner will live, while the loser will perish. With the sound of recitation, everyone gradually began to become quiet. No birth gate. Can't a name that's so unlucky sound better? Zhang Jun secretly roused, and suddenly found that the light around him had suddenly darkened. When I lowered my head, I saw a huge shadow in front of me, like a small mountain covering me. My heart suddenly thumped. Lift your head. Looking up against the light, I saw a 2-meter-tall giant standing behind me at some point. The giant was draped in a tattered Taoist robe, with disheveled hair and an indistinct face. Just standing there, the surrounding light seems to be devoured by a force around him. Is this a person? Zhang Jun looked at the Taoist in front of him, his eyes widened, and he couldn't help but take a step back. But I didn't want to stumble under my feet, and my body suddenly became unstable. As he was about to fall into a mess, the Taoist in front of him grabbed him tightly. The huge palm was pulled onto his arm, and the icy sensation made Zhang Jun shiver uncontrollably. This guy's hands don't seem like a living person. Goodbye, master. Compared to Zhang Jun's stunned demeanor, the 3 young men behind him had already bent down to pay their respects. Upon hearing the 3 people bowing behind him, Zhang Jun suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. This guy can't be his own master, can he? The Taoist waved his hand and let go of Zhang Jun. Master, if you personally take action this time, perhaps your opponent is the Jade Shu Taoist from Qinyan sect. Master brother approached and asked. The Taoist nodded and said, I'm an old opponent, some accounts need to be calculated. Master, you have reached the realm of entering the Tao with your cultivation and cultivation skills. How could that old man Yushu be your opponent? Huang Mao, the 3rd senior brother who had just whispered a curse, immediately approached and started flattering. Zhang Jun listened on the side, corresponding to the trivial information in his mind. The path of cultivation involves refining the body, gathering qi, concentrating the mind, entering the Tao, and achieving enlightenment. Those who can enter the Tao are all sect elders and experts who are on their own. So I am a disciple of the Wuxing sect. Can we switch to a different sect? This name is also somewhat for a moment, Zhang Jun sighed and his heart was no longer entangled with this matter. He knows that this kind of thing may not be within his control. Fortunately, the master in front of him, who looked like a giant, still seemed quite secure. Kaka kaka. A huge turntable emerged and rose from the arena. There are 3 layers inside and outside the turntable. There are various bizarre shapes on each layer. Each of the above graphics corresponds to the rules and methods of the next competition. 3 levels of turntables, including terrain, rules, and competition methods. Those who are lucky may have simpler rules, but if they are unlucky and encounter some extreme rules, they should consider themselves unlucky. Although Zhang Jun couldn't understand, it didn't affect his mood. Squinting his eyes at the rules above, he silently prayed in his heart that the rules of this showdown would be more exciting. After all, for a dying person, this may be the final scenery. Compared to Zhang Jun's excitement, the emotions of the 3 brothers beside him were completely different. They had already started silently praying, hoping that the rules would be simpler this time. Click click click. The 3-layer turntable began to rotate simultaneously. Everyone held their breath. It's a arena competition. Without waiting for him to think more, Huang Mao, the 3rd senior brother, had already exclaimed excitedly that this was the terrain of the arena competition. No obstacles, no complex environment, most suitable for simple battles. Ha ha ha, now Qingyun's sect may not even be able to rely on the terrain. The 1st and 2nd senior brothers had a look of great joy on their faces. Qingyun's sect is not good at martial arts, but they have some means in formation and talismans. However, these things have lost the advantage of terrain. Facing our master, they will undoubtedly be defeated. Senior brother's expression was filled with joy. There are no methods that have been practiced by the disciples, and none of them are techniques for killing. Not to mention their bloodthirsty bloodline, they are also the most skilled lineage in martial arts in Wuxing sect. This time, Taoist Yushu is afraid that he will be doomed. Following closely, the 2nd-level turntable also began to stop. It is a bizarre skull shape. Sacrifice. The 3 senior brothers were taken aback when they saw this figure, and their excited expressions quickly retreated from their faces. This is not a good rule. Although Zhang Jun didn't know what the rule of sacrifice meant, he could still feel a sense of unease on everyone's faces. So he leaned over to his 2nd senior and asked in a low voice, "Senior brother, what are the rules for finding Shuyuan? www.zhaoshuyuan.com." 2nd senior brother didn't think too much and explained, "It should be related to worship, and it depends on the 3rd round of drawing duels." Oh. Click click click. The 3rd-level turntable is still spinning, and at this moment everyone's emotions have begun to tense up. The way of competition is the key to determining the victory or defeat of both sides. If the martial arts are okay, you can completely rely on your strength to crush the opponent. But if it's not martial arts, there are other ways. Although we can also use force to solve the opponent during the process, the victory or defeat may not necessarily be solved solely by force. Click, click, click. The turntable gradually came to a stop, and as the long needle on the turntable pointed towards a gourd, the faces of the 3 senior brothers instantly turned black. And in the audience of the people on the opposite side, there was a burst of huge laughter, as if they had seen some joke. Although Zhang Jun doesn't know what that gourd means, he can use his toes to think that it's probably not something their master is good at. The host began to announce the format of the competition. In the arena battle, refining pills takes 3 hours. The first to refine the pill wins. After the host finished speaking, he glanced meaningfully at this side and then continued. The rules are as follows. 2 people can draw elixirs from the box. Many elixirs are incomplete, and you need to find a way to complete them. But there are also perfect elixirs, but the difficulty is extremely high, and what you draw depends on your luck. Even if alchemy fails, it doesn't matter. But every time you need to refine the materials again, you need your disciples to complete a curse test. According to the rules, participants' disciples must also participate. Chapter 3. The Rules of Despair. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Plush. After the host finished reading out the competition rules, the three brothers, who were initially eager, collapsed on the ground as if their bones had been removed. Alchemy. They do have methods to refine highly toxic substances within their lifeless world, but no one would ever waste time refining pills. In their words, there is time to refine pills. Kill a few more people, extract their souls and devour them. The cultivation level has long been up, so what more pills should we refine? But now, they are actually better than alchemy. What's even more deadly is the materials needed for alchemy, which require these disciples to undergo curse trials. The so-called curse trial is a process where a person experiences the torment of several curses in a short period of time. If you go down at once, at least half of your life must be accounted for there. If you're not lucky, you'll be ruined on the spot. There are only 4 brothers in their lineage. This person is it enough for Master to trample. At the thought of this, the 3 of them turned pale with death. Zhang Jun understood the key with just a slight thought, but instead he had a relaxed mindset. He was already a dying person, not only not feeling terrifying, but also feeling excited and eager to try. Yuan. Give up. Don't say that you only have 4 disciples in this lineage. I'm afraid it's not enough to throw the lives of all the disciples in your Wusheng sect into it, and it's not enough for you to try out a pill. In the audience behind him, a master who was also a sorcerer frowned and said. Upon hearing this, the disciples immediately cast grateful glances in the direction of the speaker. Yuan, we know you have a grudge against the old Taoist of Qingyun sect, but your advantage this time is not yours. Let's give up before we officially start, although the cost is high. But if you insist on taking risks, I'm afraid in the future, the inheritance of this bloodless bloodthirsty bloodline will be extinct. The speaker was another member of the demon realm who did not appear, but only came through a message. Faced with the dissuasion of 2 demon masters, a group of disciples, including Zhang Jun, looked straight at their master in front of them. Under the messy strands of hair, those turbid eyes also showed a hint of hesitation at this moment. However, those righteous people in the opposite audience are now laughing uncontrollably. Even some people speak out and mock. Ha ha ha, I'm laughing to death. Yuan, when did you learn how to refine pills? Come out and let's take a look. Old devil, kneel down now and call me Grandpa, and I will teach you how to refine pills. Old ghost, isn't it that you're afraid? If you're afraid, surrender quickly, cut yourself to death, and offer sacrifices to half of your disciples. Upon hearing the mockery from the other side, the already paralyzed disciples immediately rushed forward and grabbed their master's pants. Master, don't fall for the trap. They are intentionally provoking you. We are not good at alchemy, let alone incomplete alchemy formulas. I bet. The hoarse voice interrupted everyone's dissuasion. Yuan lowered his head and looked at the 3 disciples with lifeless faces. He frowned and strode away, jumping straight out of the audience and towards the arena. Not only did Zhang Jun's face turn pale now. This is not for them to fight, but simply to die. No. I don't want it, I don't want it. This is death. 3rd senior brother Huang Mao couldn't take it anymore and turned around wanting to escape. Just a few steps away, a big black hand broke through the air and the next moment was to grab him from the air. Waste, your master has already taken it, who dares not take it? After a cold and stern reprimand, I saw my big hand swing and throw my 3rd senior brother Huang Mao directly into the lower arena. With a muffled sound of bang, the 3rd senior brother Huang Mao was suddenly broken by several bones and lay unconscious on the ground. Retreat. Kill without mercy. The demon master who had been persuading others before immediately changed his attitude. Zhang Jun felt a chill all over his body, as if a gaze had already begun to scrutinize him. He didn't pay much attention to this and instead grinned. Unfortunately, there is no cigarette, otherwise lighting a cigarette at this time would be quite appropriate. Up. Master has made up his mind, how could I be so greedy and afraid of death? It's just a matter of one's life. I'll go all out and show the hypocrites across the street what it means to live together. Zhang Jun's expression was stern, and his resolute voice was particularly loud. This is a beautiful statement, and by the way, I didn't forget to look down on the righteous people across from me. It has attracted many admiring glances from Zhang Jun's side. Even if it was just a dying person's dream, he wanted to make it bright and happy, rather than holding it back like yellow hair. This is a bit of our demons carefree, unlike those cowards. Boy, let me give you a ride. A burst of laughter came, and a cool breeze struck. The next moment, he was lifted up and lightly transported to the arena. Your junior brothers have all gone down, what are you two still doing? Accompanied by a fierce reprimand, the remaining two senior brothers were immediately sent down by a strong wind. Of course, they don't have the same treatment as Zhang Jun. If they were caught off guard and fell to the ground, they would also fall into a mess. Such a disheveled appearance once again drew a burst of mocking laughter from the other side. Just waiting for the two of them to tremble and get up, without considering their faces, they quickly walked up to the edge of the arena and watched their master walk to the box. A complete elixir must be drawn. Blessed by the unborn ancestor. They silently prayed in their hearts, although the difficulty of a complete elixir was great, it was at least complete. There is at least a 30% chance of success in refining pills according to the methods in the prescription. But if there are missing elixirs, the eldest senior brother and the second senior brother had a rosy complexion. What kind of thing is a cursed altar? They have never seen it before, but they have heard of this rule, which is extremely cruel, and few people can withstand it. Gu Yuan, why are you doing this? At this moment, an elderly man with white hair and long beards walked out calmly from the opposite audience, looking at Gu Yuan with a smile and saying. Obviously, this is the Yushu Taoist mentioned by the previous three senior brothers. This person looks like a fairy-like figure, waving his hand to brush the dust. A golden light turns into a rainbow bridge and falls lightly with a pair of children. Not to mention anything else, just this way of appearing has already overwhelmed Gu Yuan. Not to mention, there are two Taoist children following behind this old man. Dao Tong, a man and a woman, has a pink little face, tied in two buns with red silk, and wears a gold and silver lock around his neck. The boy on the left is holding a sword, while the girl on the right is holding Rui. Standing behind Taoist Yushu, with an air of a golden child and jade maiden, such a grandiose appearance has certainly earned the face of the righteous people on the opposite side. However, before the foot of Taoist Yushu landed on the ground, there was a piercing burst of laughter. The laughter was loud, even somewhat exaggerated. Everyone's gaze turned sideways, and they saw Zhang Jun holding his stomach, pointing at Taoist Yushu, who had already arched his body with a smile. Everyone frowned, and even Gu Yuan couldn't help but look coldly at his little disciple. When Taoist Yushu saw Zhang Jun pointing at him and laughing, he immediately lowered his face and squinted his eyes at Zhang Jun, saying, "Why are you laughing?" Ha ha ha. I laugh. Zhang Jun covered his face with both hands, as if he was laughing uncontrollably. After taking a deep breath, his laughter suddenly stopped. With both hands open, he stared at this old immortal with unwavering eyes. I laugh at you for wearing underwear. Everyone was stunned and didn't understand what it meant. Zhang Jun raised his hand and gestured his middle finger towards Taoist Yushu. Pretend to be forced. As soon as these words were spoken, the whole room fell silent. The next second, the entire arena seemed to explode like a pot. Little beast, you're looking for death. Damn it, the wall of feces cannot be built. I will have you dismembered in countless pieces. Cramps and peeling, bruises and ashes. The righteous crowd exploded, they had never heard such crude and disgusting curses before. Correspondingly, it was the laughter and praise of the demonic masters. Even if some people do not like such vulgar cursing, they will not be harshly criticized for it. Taoist Yushu's face was even more iron blue as ink, and he stared at Zhang Jun with two eyes. I don't know if I'm alive or dead. If you touch your young master, I'll give it a try with just one finger. My master can crush you with just one finger. This time I drew alchemy, you have burned high incense for 8 lifetimes. Not right. Your ancestral tomb has exploded, and even smoking is not acceptable. You can steal it and enjoy it. Zhang Jun didn't hesitate to point at Taoist Yushu and scold him for anything unpleasant. The appearance of risking one's life made the two senior brothers on the side dumbfounded. I don't know what kind of wind this junior brother has drawn. Aren't you afraid that the other party will attack him? Zhaozuiyuan.com. Taoist Yushu's face darkened slightly, and his eyes were already filled with murderous intent. Just before he could take action, the towering figure was already standing in front of Zhang Jun. Looking at the back of his master, Zhang Junchang let out a breath and poked his head out from behind Gu Yuan, making a grimace at him. He knew that his recent actions were purely seeking death, and he was dancing striptease in front of the Yen prince. But so what? Since I participated in this competitive competition, it is destined that the other party will not let me go. Since that's the case, it's better to curse and at least win the favor of this master. When we go to the altar later, it's also good to be able to lean back. Humph. Seeing Zhang Jun being guarded by Gu Yuan behind him, Taoist Yushu didn't want to provoke Gu Yuan at this moment. With a cold snort, he urged, let's start quickly. The two walked up to the box. There is a gap on the box, just stick your hand in. Gu Yuan glanced at the box and casually reached his hand in. After groping around, he drew out a light red prescription. The host took a look at the elixir and immediately said in a high voice, there is no way out. Without the elixir, 100 Gu can forge the Yuan elixir. Done. Even though everyone in the demon realm was mentally prepared, upon hearing that it was actually the missing elixir, their faces immediately turned ugly. Especially the eldest and second senior brothers around me, both of them are about to cry at this moment. Just followed closely, an unexpected scene appeared for them. I saw their master Gu Yuan, who, after receiving the elixir, didn't even glance at it and just crumpled it into a ball and threw it on the ground. Chapter 4. Alchemy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This action surprised everyone. Upon careful consideration, it seems reasonable. Has Master gone crazy? The eldest and second senior brothers looked at the abandoned pill on the ground with question marks on their faces. No. Master is very clear-headed, it's because we overthought. Zhang Jun looked at the pill that had been thrown on the ground and didn't understand at first, but soon he understood the master's intentions. Perhaps from the beginning, Master had no intention of refining pills. Since I am not good at alchemy, spending energy on alchemy is also a dead end, so why not take the opportunity to directly kill the other party? Anyway, there is no mention in the rules that it is not allowed to directly kill the other party. If the opponent dies and they have not refined the elixir, it is a simultaneous failure. But according to the rules, if we are competing for alchemy and no one has refined it, it is a draw. After Zhang Jun revealed his guess, the two senior brothers beside him suddenly froze for a few seconds, and their faces were immediately filled with joy. Yeah, why didn't I think of it? Caring leads to chaos. We never thought of such a simple method, junior brother, you have a bright mind. No wonder you were so stubborn just now. I'm afraid you've already thought of Master's intentions. I think too much. I just want to run faster than you guys. Zhang Jun's face turned slightly red and he did not explain the misunderstanding. He believed in this, and those magic masters behind him probably had already noticed it. Zhang Jun didn't immediately understand this point, precisely because he was in the game, a blind eye. So, aren't we safe now? It's hard to say. Zhang Jun furrowed his brows and kept his gaze fixed on Taoist Yushu. Seeing the calm and composed demeanor of the other party, Zhang Jun knew that things might not be that simple. After all, Taoist Yushu must also be able to think of the problems he can think of. Judging from his calm and composed demeanor, perhaps he has already made other preparations. I saw Taoist Yushu stretching out 2 fingers, gently squeezing them into the box, and then taking out a prescription. He glanced at it, and the corner of his mouth couldn't hide his smile. The host took over the elixir and said expressionlessly, Qinyan sect, non-destructive elixir Zixia Dan. Cheating. What kind of luck, this can be drawn by him. Difficult to deal with, no damage to the elixir, coupled with the fact that Yushu, a bull nose, is already skilled at alchemy, I'm afraid. The members of the demon realm did not expect that Taoist Yushu's luck would be so good. The number of non-destructive elixirs is very small, and the probability of winning is only 1 or 2/10. Surprisingly, he was able to draw them so easily. Roaming and rumbling. Under the arena, there was a huge roar, and a quaint skull altar rose, all engraved with unrecognizable ancient runes. Just a glance made people feel dizzy. This is the altar used for the curse trial. It is said that it contains all the curses in the world. Once activated, even experts like Yuan and others dare not say they can withstand it. At the same time, at the east and west corners of the arena, a huge bronze alchemy furnace rises up. The materials for the first round of preparation have been placed under the Dan furnace. As soon as both sides walked to the front of the furnace, the host took out a bowl from his sleeve and said, Life and death are in the arena, let's start. Pop. Kill. Zhang Jun only heard a roar in his ear, smoke and dust surged up, and the ground trembled violently. The ancient Yuanren had already rushed out. A thick mist of blood rose up from around, transforming into a fierce tiger behind Yuan and emitting deafening roars. This roar was like a heavy hammer, hitting Zhang Jun's heart hard. Even though he knew this was the gaming world, when he witnessed this incredible power with his own eyes, Zhang Jun couldn't help but gasp for breath. Bang! With a muffled roar, the next moment Yuan flew backwards. The massive body fell fiercely to the ground, forming a strong wind that swept up and smashed small stones, blowing them over. Zhang Jun and the others quickly hugged their heads and dodged, but there were still stones of all sizes hitting them. When Yuan got up and looked, he saw Taoist Yushu standing beside the alchemy furnace with a smile on his face, holding a gossip plate in his hand. The 8 trigrams plate is full of ups and downs, with yin and yang rotating in a dark light falling down, covering the surroundings. 6th-level magic weapon. The senior brother opened his mouth wide and stomped his foot in a moment, cursing the street. This old miscellaneous hair is playing tricks. No wonder he is so confident. It turns out he has a 6th-grade magic weapon in his hand. Zhang Jun stared intently at the gossip tray in the hand of Taoist Yushu. Upon hearing the words of his senior brother, he couldn't help but ask curiously, what is a 6th-grade magic weapon? Master brother remained silent with a bitter expression on his face. On the other hand, the second senior brother patiently explained to Zhang Jun. Magic tools, treasures, and spiritual treasures are the treasures of practitioners. Each has 9 grades. Not only does it require precious natural resources and treasures to refine, but it also needs to be integrated with one's own cultivation methods, gradually nourishing and advancing, and achieving dual cultivation of life and soul. So the level of the magic weapon is also relative to one's own cultivation. Their master Yuan's magic weapon is only the 4th grade. The cultivation of Taoist Yushu is far inferior to their masters, so it can be said that he only has a 3rd grade to persevere. Now it is as high as 6 grades. This is completely cheating. So, master can't break the opponent's magic weapon anymore. Zhang Jun doesn't care about whether Taoist Yushu cheated, he only cares about more important things. This second senior brother is speechless. Zhang Jun looked at his senior brother and saw that his face was pale and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. He already knew the answer in his heart. Gu Yuan got up from the ground, his eyes red, like a mad lion with even stronger evil energy on his body. With a pull from his palm, a bone sword appeared out of thin air in his palm. The blade body is permeated with visible blood energy, which is threatening and intimidating. Waving his big sword, he rolled up a bloody aura and once again fought hard to slay Taoist Yushu. Hey! Many people shook their heads and sighed at the audience seats of the magic path. The enmity between Gu Yuan and Taoist Yushu is somewhat well known to everyone. Back then, it was the plan of Taoist Yushu who almost killed Gu Yuan. Gu Yuan narrowly escaped, but his close friend died under Yushu's plan. Gu Yuan has excellent talent. If given some more time, even if he becomes a Taoist, he may not lack the opportunity. Why be so hasty? Someone shook their head in regret. Success or failure has now become a foregone conclusion. The 6th grade magic weapon is not something that Gu Yuan can break, and besides, the boy behind Yushu has already started preparing to refine pills. Only waiting for the pill to be refined, according to the gambling agreement, Gu Yuan will die. As Gu Yuan's blade swung down one after another, it was easily resisted by Wu Guang in front of Taoist Yushu, causing everyone in the demon realm to remain silent and shake their heads. But the hearts of Zhang Jun and his brothers also sank to the bottom. Lost, lost. Second senior brother sat on the ground, his face filled with despair. They are both contestants, and if their master loses, they will also lose their lives. Bang! 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 The collision of the blades and the strong wind generated repeatedly hit Zhang Jun's face. Is it going to end like this? He looked at Gu Yuan's back with complex eyes. Do you yearn for it? Or rather, it is unwillingness. I just arrived in a world that filled him with longing, but now I can only watch helplessly and do nothing. Even if it's death, this way of death is unacceptable to him. At this moment, Zhang Jun felt something rolling under his feet and looked down. It was the elixir that Gu Yuan had thrown away before. Zhang Jun originally intended to kick the Danfang away with one kick. I don't know how to refine pills myself. Even if I throw myself in flawless pill, I won't be able to refine it myself. But when he looked at the Danfang, he suddenly noticed a white question mark appearing on top of it. As one's gaze focuses, a piece of information immediately appears in one's sight. By Gu Zhu Yuan Dan, Dan Fang, the poison pill made from dozens of gu and poison can be an excellent nourishing treasure for poison cultivation. Unfortunately, this prescription is not complete. Baigu can melt, but its medicinal properties are difficult to achieve. It lacks a warm and neutral medicinal guide. You can try to find alternatives in the 3 spiritual medicines of Wuxinghua, Jinlongkou, and Yujinlian. Task: refine 100 gu casting Yuan Dan. Task difficulty: normal. Task reward: Basic Alchemy Part 1, 1 Wishing Star. Upon seeing the information above, Zhang Jun froze for a few seconds and couldn't help but rub his eyes. After confirming that he was not mistaken, he immediately grabbed the prescription. Holding the elixir on his hand, Zhang Jun's eyes straightened. This is not a prescription, it is his life. Saving straw. According to the instructions on the task, you only need to try to refine the 100 gu forging Yuan Dan in 3 spiritual medicines. Wuxinghua, Jinlongkou, and Yujinlian. Thinking of this, Zhang Jun's originally pale face suddenly surged with a blush. Excitedly, he lifted his head and looked at the senior and second senior brothers beside him, then stepped forward and grabbed them. Don't be fooled, Master can't count on us anymore. If we want to survive, we must refine our own pills. Refining pills on your own. The senior brother stared blankly at Zhang Jun's face and couldn't help but burst out laughing for a moment. You're crazy, just like your master. You're all crazy, refining pills yourself. Are you joking? Master Brother seemed to vent all his anger and grievances, and came forward to pull up Zhang Jun's collar. Even if we can refine pills, do you really think that with this incomplete prescription, we can refine pills? Zhang Jun didn't speak, he just waited for his senior brother to vent before opening his palm. Everything depends on human factors. If you don't give it a try, it's the dead end. The master brother was stunned, which was completely different from his impression of the young junior brother. At least the young junior brother had never had such a sharp gaze before. I think I can give it a try. I've studied alchemy for a few years, but I haven't really developed anything. Second senior brother whispered. That's great. Upon hearing this, Zhang Jun was overjoyed. He didn't expect second senior brother to have the same ability. He grabbed second senior brother's arm and hurriedly walked to the alchemy furnace, trying to stir it up on the other side. The sound of the blade chopping became increasingly intense. Gu Yuan was holding a bone knife, while Yu was reading a book. Suddenly, the knife light exploded, and blood was drenched, emitting a sword aura of ghostly crying and howling. The sharp blade of the sword startled everyone. Even many experts couldn't help but frown. If one were to encounter Gu Yuan, it may not necessarily be their opponent. Even with such a domineering swordsmanship, the strands of gray light in front of Yu Shu quickly dissipated invisibly. The 6th grade magic weapon protects the body, which is an absolute level suppression. Yu Shu has already stood invincible. And the two boys behind him have already started to focus on refining the pill, believing that it won't be long before the pill can be refined. When the time comes, bang. Suddenly, a sharp explosion startled everyone. This explosion was not caused by Gu Yuan. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and saw Zhang Jun and his second senior brother crawling out from behind the alchemy furnace with a disheveled expression on their faces. Cough cough. Zhang Jun turned to look at his second senior brother with a dark face and said, "Is that what you said about alchemy?" Unexpected, fire. Cough 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 cough. The fire is too big. Second senior brother shook his head and said with some embarrassment. What should we do now? The alchemy materials given as gifts have been destroyed. If you want to use alchemy materials again, you must experience the curse trial. Zhang Jun seemed to have anticipated this earlier, he didn't even consider that the first batch could be refined into a pill. Don't worry, look, isn't that ready-made? Zhang Jun raised his hand and pointed, while the second senior brother followed his finger and found a person lying on the ground not far away. It was Huang Mao, the third junior brother who had been violently thrown down before. Chapter 5. Another bitter 3 junior brother. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Third junior brother. Second senior brother looked at the yellow hair lying on the ground, with a hint of unbearable expression on his face. He was directly thrown down and was already injured. Using him for the curse test would take his life, wouldn't it? I can't care too much now. Trust me, at most 3 times, we can try this elixir. 3 times. Second senior brother was stunned for a moment, not too many times, but was surprised by Zhang Jun's words. Are you sure? The senior brother, who was originally unwilling to put in effort, couldn't help but turn around and ask after Zhang Jun's affirmative tone. Sure, I've seen this prescription in a book before. I remember there seems to be a medicine that can replace it, but after too long, I can't remember clearly. I need to give it a try, probably among the 3 medicinal herbs. Seeing Zhang Jun speaking so confidently, the senior brother turned around and ran straight towards the yellow hair on the ground. Lift him up directly and walk towards the altar. What are they doing? I don't know, it seems like. I'm refining pills. When everyone saw this scene, they finally realized that Zhang Jun and the 3 of them were actually trying to refine the 100 gu casting Yuan Dan. This move undoubtedly triggered another burst of laughter from everyone. Especially in the opposite audience, many young disciples laughed and even made sarcastic remarks. Alchemy. Even Gu Yuan doesn't know how to do it. Did you learn it from your master? I must have learned from my master's mother behind my back. As soon as these words were spoken, many young people looked ambiguous, and some even wrote a poem in public. Young men and women are in a romantic relationship, with their golden tents and spring nights filled with endless love. When their spirits rise, they do not know that they have come to the side room, and the three of them embark on a journey. Into the immortal boat. Ha ha ha. As soon as this poem was written, it immediately caused everyone to burst into laughter. Fuck your mother. Second senior brother's face turned green and he jumped up to curse at the audience across from him. But it was pulled back by Zhang Jun. Don't pay attention to them, clean up the alchemy furnace, adjust the alchemy fire, and don't delay the next furnace. There are at least a few thousand people on the other side, and with just 3 of them, it's impossible to curse even if their mouths are crooked. Instead of wasting energy, it's better to seize the time to prepare for the next batch of pills. At this moment, the eldest senior brother had already thrown the yellow hair of the third senior brother onto the altar and said to the nearby host, "Exchange the materials." The host stood next to the altar, confirmed that Huang Mao was still alive, nodded, and then took out a token to gently shake at the altar. The originally gloomy runes on the altar seemed to be ignited, emitting flickering fluorescence and rapidly spreading along a specific trajectory on the altar. But in a moment, the entire altar was awakened. Ka. When the light of all the curse patterns converged in the hollow eye sockets of the skull altar, a hazy halo emanated. Everyone can feel a force of extreme darkness reviving in their slumber. Zhang Jun watched from a distance. The skeleton opened its mouth and for a moment, countless eerie black shadows spewed out of its mouth, transforming into densely packed small snakes that burrowed into the 7 holes of its yellow fur. Ah! Huang Mao, who was originally in a coma, immediately opened his eyes and his body twitched violently. The eerie and sinister curse constantly changes on the skin and flesh of Huang Mao. Often before one curse stabilizes, it will be directly consumed by the next curse. This process is very fast, but for Huang Mao, it is simply unbearable pain. Every second is as long as a long time. Huang Mao's arms curled, and 5 fingers gradually formed an irregular twisted shape under the curse. In just a moment, the yellow hair began to fall off in large quantities. The face began to become swollen, with blue blood vessels bulging high and wriggling under the skin like earthworms. This scene made everyone's scalp tingle. Both the righteous and the wicked, this is the first time that many young disciples have seen the curse test. When Huang Mao let out a deep, inhuman roar under the curse, his face immediately turned pale. I couldn't help but silently pray in my heart, never draw such rules in the future. Fortunately, the trial time was not long. In less than a minute, the curse was sucked back by the skeleton through the pores of yellow hair. But at this moment, Huang Mao had already fallen to the ground, lost control of urination and defecation, and was curled up in a ball. If it weren't for his twitching limbs, he would probably have thought he was dead. We need the materials for alchemy, and this time we will add 3 spiritual medicines. Wugua, Jinlongko, and Yijinlian. Zhang Jun shouted to the host. The host nodded and soon the spiritual medicine that Zhang Jun needed was delivered. But there is only one main medicine for refining the 100 gu casting Yuan Dan. Zhang Jun and his second senior brother dared not delay at all and immediately began refining medicine. With the experience from last time, second senior brother carefully controlled the Dan fire this time. Zhang Jun sequentially poured the spiritual medicine into the alchemy furnace according to the method of the prescription. What kind of medication should we use this time? Second senior brother looked at the 3 medicinal guides placed in front of him and became confused for a moment. It's best if you can succeed at once, but if not, use this. Zhang Jun casually picked up a few lotus-shaped elixirs, jade lotus, and handed them to his second senior brother. Second senior brother took over and held these spiritual medicines in his palm. After silently praying, he threw them into the elixir. In the audience, an alchemist watched as Zhang Jun and his second senior brother were tinkering. He didn't pay much attention at first, but as he watched the smoke slowly rising from the alchemy furnace, a strange color gradually appeared on his face. "Junior brother, look." Second senior brother suddenly became ecstatic and pointed to the pill that was about to form in the furnace, screaming, "It's about to become a pill." Zhang Jun's spirit lifted, and he didn't expect them to be so lucky that they succeeded in one go. He immediately leaned in and looked into the alchemy furnace. "I saw a pill gradually taking shape in the Dan fire. But he hasn't been happy for a few seconds yet." There was a sudden bang in the stove. The originally formed pill suddenly fell into pieces. "Blowing up the pill, ha ha ha." On the opposite audience, many people burst into laughter when they saw this scene. Just this time, it's not just laughter, but also many people frowning. Explosive pills belong to explosive pills, but the prerequisite is that they must be close to becoming pills. That is to say, these two kids almost became. "Master, can they really refine the 100 gu casting Yuan Dan? In the audience, a Taoist looked up at his master and asked quietly. "It's hard to say, it's not necessarily impossible." The man sitting quietly next to Dao Tong, with purple hair and golden pupils on his eyebrows, is the famous Dan Dao expert Zhang Jun in the righteous path, with a status still above that of Yushu Daoist. But they haven't learned the art of alchemy. Although acknowledged by his master, Dao Tong still couldn't believe it in his heart. The rules are fair, and incomplete elixirs often do not require such high alchemy skills. A little knowledge of alchemy is enough, but the difficulty lies in gathering all the elixirs. As long as the elixirs are correct, they can be quickly achieved. Upon hearing this, Dao Tong turned around to look at Zhang Jun and the two of them, his eyebrows twisted into a ball. He still didn't believe that these two were amateurs who could test out the incomplete elixir. "Good kid, keep trying. Don't stop. That's right, it's very close. Give it a try again, maybe you can make it." The demon also noticed that Zhang Jun and the others may not have had the opportunity, and they all spoke up to encourage the two. The two of them exchanged a glance and turned their gaze towards their senior brother. Master brother deliberately understood the two of them and glanced at Huang Mao, the third junior brother who was still convulsing on the altar. "Take a deep breath and look at the host." Another one. The altar has been activated again. Huang Mao, the third junior brother who was still convulsing, immediately let out inhumane screams. Second senior brother couldn't bear to turn his head and didn't dare to look. But Zhang Junkai didn't care about so much. After the elixir of alchemy was delivered, he immediately picked up the fruitless fruit and handed it to second senior brother, saying, "Try using this one this time." The commotion caused by Zhang Jun and his second senior brother was also noticed by Taoist Yushu. Although Taoist Yushu did not believe that relying solely on two small pieces of magic could restore a pill like the 100 gu forging Yuan Dan. The recent explosion of pills also made him feel a bit uneasy. Looking back at the two boys, "How long will it take?" "Master, it will take at least half an hour. Increase the Dan fire and make sure to become the Dan as soon as possible." Yushu Taoist Yu Guang glanced at Zhang Jun's side. Yu reading www.yuyukeungshu.net. If possible, he would want to shatter this tusk into countless pieces now, but the ancient Yuan in front of him doesn't give him any chance to make a move. The big sword flipped and danced like a dragon out of the sea, and the sky was filled with blood like a tidal wave, with waves covering each other and crashing down. If it weren't for him having a 6th grade magic weapon to protect himself, it would have been a long time ago. Bang! At this moment, another explosion of pills could be heard from Zhang Jun and his second senior brother's furnace. 2 consecutive explosions of pills inevitably caused many people to lose confidence in it. Even second senior brother feels a bit disheartened. However, Zhang Jun's face instead showed an excited and joyful expression. Since neither the fruit nor the jade lotus were right, then the only option left was the golden dragon grass. Junior brother, is it really possible? Second senior brother raised his head and looked behind Zhang Jun. On the side of Taoist Yushu, strands of purple smoke had already risen from their alchemy. Even with his two swords, it can be seen that this is a precursor to the success of the pill. I can't help feeling a bit disheartened. Sure. Zhang Jun reached out to pinch second senior brother's chin, turned his face around, and stared into second senior brother's eyes, saying, "Believe me, I can definitely do it this time." The black and white eyes were full of unprecedented confidence, and this steadfast gaze also touched the heart of second senior brother. He didn't know where the confidence came from, but at this moment, the resolute gaze, like a calming sea needle, calmed his restless mind. Okay, then. Give it a try again, second senior brother nodded, but then lowered his head again and whispered in a mosquito-like voice. For the sake of the overall situation, I can only endure one more hardship, junior brother San. Chapter 6. Victory. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Exchange for elixirs. Upon receiving signals from Zhang Jun and second senior brother, the first senior brother turned to the host and said. The host turned his head and looked at the three senior brothers on the altar. The third senior brother, who had experienced 2 consecutive curses, had already lost all his hair and had an emaciated appearance, resembling a patient undergoing chemotherapy in the hospital. But he's still alive, that's enough. The host nodded and activated the altar again. This time, the third senior brother didn't even have the strength to scream. Despite the curse, he only let out a whimpering sound in his mouth. The pitiful appearance made many people turn their heads and couldn't bear to look anymore. Pooh, you're such a beast. If it were me, I wouldn't have let my fellow disciples suffer such torment. Many young people began to curse Zhang Jun and others for their cold-blooded and ruthless behavior. Zhang Junki didn't have the heart to defend himself. He just took the materials for alchemy and lay down in front of the alchemy furnace with his second senior brother again, starting to pound. With the experience of the first 3 times, this time the two are also familiar with each other. Put the spiritual medicine into the pill box and send it into the pill furnace. This time, the medicinal herb golden dragon grass was added, and the two carefully controlled the Dan fire, staring intently at the Dan furnace in front of them. As Zhang said before, the difficulty of refining this kind of elixir lies only in the missing materials, but it is not very difficult. In no time, the people who were originally watching the excitement in the audience gradually felt something was wrong. What's going on? Why haven't you exploded the pill yet? Everyone looked at the ethereal smoke rising from the alchemy furnace, and even an outsider could feel that this furnace of elixirs seemed to be about to succeed. Are you deceiving people? No one believes that they can become successful, they just feel like they have been fooled by it. Most of these missing elixirs are already lost or even extremely obscure. There are also rumors that these elixirs were all temporarily modified by magic. To complete this elixir is not only a test of alchemy, but also a test of one's own knowledge reserves. If you're not a top-notch expert in alchemy, don't even think about trying it out. Otherwise, Yuan would have thrown the elixir on the ground without even looking at it. What even Yuan couldn't do, how could these cats and dogs under his command be able to do? At this moment, someone noticed that there were people standing up and leaving the main audience. Let's go, there's nothing else to see. Zhang stood up and called out his own Taoist, who was still in a daze. Ah! Upon hearing his master's words, Daotong was stunned for a few seconds before looking back at the arena and hesitating for a few seconds before asking, is it not over yet? Dan Yun is already alive. Unless the two of them lose their nerve and smash the Dan furnace, Yushu will definitely be defeated. Defeat. Upon hearing this, Daotong was shocked and turned pale. He restored the incomplete elixir, even if it was something he himself might not be able to do, just relying on them. Staring straight at Zhang Jun in front of the Dan furnace. Even though he had already received recognition from his master, he still couldn't accept this ending in his heart. Yushu, a Taoist, is not only a senior in the righteous path, but also an elder in the righteous path. If killed by Gu Yuan, perhaps people would only feel sad, but they would never be so impolite. But now he was actually defeated on his proud path. What's even more unacceptable is that he was defeated by two demonic minions who were not even as good as students. This made the Taoist child who regarded alchemy as a form of life unable to accept it for a moment. He stood there foolishly, his body trembling unconsciously, and he kept murmuring to himself, "This is impossible, how could this be?" Seeing that his disciple had already entered the obstacle, Zhang Jun extended a finger and lightly flicked it on Daotong's head. The pain instantly made Daotong wince his teeth. When he regained his senses and found that his master had already left, he heard his master Zhang Jun's message in his ear. You can overlook those who are worse than you, but you cannot underestimate them. You may be better than them, but because your life is better than theirs. Daotong covered his forehead, bulging a big bump high in his head. After hearing his master's scolding, he dared not have the same thoughts as before. However, before leaving, he couldn't help but turn his head to look in Zhang Jun's direction. The pill will be ready. Not only this Taoist cannot accept it. The Taoist Yushu, who was originally calm and composed, almost felt uneasy when he saw the Dan Yun in front of Zhang Jun and his companions. Even the magic weapon Yin Yang Ding Kong Pan became loose. I just didn't look at it at first glance, and when I saw it again, the other party's pill was about to become effective. Taoist Yushu blinked his eyes, and upon closer inspection, his face immediately turned pale. He then screamed, "This! How could it be?" After screaming, Taoist Yushu suddenly realized something. No, we can't let them become Dan. The bet this time is on fate. If you lose alchemy, you don't need Gu Yuan to take action, and you will definitely die. Thinking of this, Taoist Yushu suddenly had nothing to worry about. He waved the Yin Yang Ding Kong Pan in his hand, pinched the technique with his fingers, and strands of yin yang energy surged out of it. He wants to rush out, first destroy the alchemy furnace, and then kill Zhang Jun. Just before he moved, Gu Yuan was already holding a bone knife and blocking it horizontally in front of him. That rough face now showed a grim smile. With his veins bulging, he lifted his big sword and waved a red light all over the sky, but it was no longer an attack on Taoist Yushu. Instead, it blocked Taoist Yushu's path, forcing him to retreat. What Taoist Yushu noticed, Gu Yuan also noticed. He was very surprised and didn't know what was going on. But he was too lazy to think about the reason behind it. No matter what Zhang Jun and the others did, as long as they could kill Taoist Yushu, it was okay. Get out of the way. Seeing Zhang Jun and his companions about to become alchemists, Taoist Yushu became anxious and leaped up, even the two alchemists behind him no longer taking care of them. I saw that the yin and yang energies that were originally protecting the body of Taoist Yushu quickly gathered and condensed into a large sword, splitting open the blood evil for him, and forcefully rushing out of this evil energy. The evil energy in front of him was pierced by the yin and yang energy, and the Taoist Yushu leaped up and flew up. But how could Gu Yuan make him satisfied? He slapped his bone knife horizontally in his hand. A loud bang. The yin and yang qi were suddenly scattered and shattered, and the tremendous power sent the Taoist Yushu flying out directly. Old thief, you also have moments of anxiety. Gu Yuan's horizontal sword immediately mounted, and the smile on his face grew stronger. Without waiting for Taoist Yushu to stand firm, he attacked and killed again. Bang bang bang. The knife is as sharp as a hammer, and one hammer is more powerful than another. Although Taoist Yushu has a magical treasure to protect himself, he is already secretly complaining in his heart. The Yin Yang Ding Kong Pan is a 6th level magic weapon, but it is good at defense and not good at attack. At this moment, the attack and defense are changing, and even if he wants to rush out, he still cannot break through. Gu Yuan, we can also be considered old acquaintances. What happened back then was that I couldn't resist you. I was willing to self-sacrifice my cultivation, and in addition, I would give you 3,000 spirit stones and a 6th-grade golden pill. How about that? Seeing that he couldn't rush out, Taoist Yushu no longer cared about his face and softened to Gu Yuan. Once a competitive competition begins, surrendering requires not only a huge cost, but also the recognition of the opponent. Taoist Yushu knew that Gu Yuan would definitely not agree, but at this point, he could only give it a try, even if it meant losing face. After all, being alive is the most important thing. Is that all? Gu Yuan held a big knife in his hand and looked at him with a smile on his face. Add another 8th-grade golden pill, it's enough to help you break through your realm. Taoist Yushu gritted his teeth and said. Confused. Gu Yuan shook his head, kill you, these are all mine. The eyes of Taoist Yushu suddenly turned red, and his heart was still trying to persuade and fight between the two. Dong! The heavy ringing of bells abruptly interrupted the thoughts of Taoist Yushu. He turned his head in a daze and saw the 2 Taoist children guarding in front of the alchemy furnace with a bewildered expression on their faces. Turn around and look behind Gu Yuan. The slender figure, holding up its arms, walked step by step from behind the alchemy furnace. Holding a pill in his hand, held high above his head. Staring intently at oneself. The fiery and stubborn gaze, however, surpasses the divine weapon, piercing straight into one's own heart. Did I lose? Taoist Yushu opened his mouth. Until now, his mind was in chaos. Defeated. The defeat left him at a loss. He knew that Gu Yuan would kill himself at any cost, borrowing a protective treasure from an ancestor of the sect at any cost. For the sake of preparing for this battle for a long time, I have exhausted all my resources and invited Master Yen Shu to bless my fortune. Even if I will sacrifice my life for 30 years. When I saw that the way of this duel was alchemy, it seemed that victory was already within reach. Every step of Gu Yuan was perfectly calculated by him. But when he focused all his energy on Gu Yuan, when he turned around, he actually lost. So far, he hasn't understood where he lost. Not to mention that Yushu doesn't understand, even Gu Yuan himself feels like a dream when looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. In the audience, both good and evil remain silent. When it comes to how Yushu was defeated, these audience members may be the clearest. But let them say it, they can't explain it clearly either. What are you saying? You focus on guarding against Gu Yuan, but who knew they easily tried out the incomplete elixir? This statement is easy to say, but even laymen who know nothing about alchemy know it. If it were put in the past, speaking it would make people laugh their teeth out. Completing elixirs is something that even a master-level alchemist cannot guarantee. Moreover, he is a disciple of Gu Yuan. I haven't heard of anyone who is proficient in alchemy in the Wuxing sect. Under the gaze of countless pairs of eyes, Zhang Jun pulled his second senior brother out from behind the alchemy furnace. Junior brother, is this pill really okay? The second senior brother's legs were trembling, and at this moment, so many eyes were focused on the two of them. This feeling of widespread attention really made him feel a bit uncomfortable. Don't worry, I promise there's no problem, we won. Zhang Jun, on the other hand, had a relaxed expression and showed no concern for the gazes cast around him. In fact, when the pill was refined, I received a prompt to complete the task. Task completed, obtain Basic Alchemy Chapter 1, a wishing star, you have participated in and completed an arena, obtain 3 wishing stars, and can return to the real world at any time, or stay here for 8 hours before returning to reality. You can use the wishing star to take an item out of this world, and at the same time, you can also consume the wishing star to bring an item in the next time you enter this world. Chapter 7. Zixia Dan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With the task prompts as a guarantee, Zhang Jun has ample confidence in the pill in his hand. But his confidence is not just the pills in his hand, but also the information conveyed in the prompts. You can leave here anytime and return to reality. Returning to reality may not be attractive to oneself, but it is the greatest guarantee for one's own safety. Hand the pill in your hand to the host. Everyone's gaze converges here. Or rather, it is gathered on the dark pill in the host's hand. The 100 gu cast Yuan Dan should be a third-grade pill. Can they really refine it? Hanging. As usual, even those who are good at alchemy need to go through careful preparation. Moreover, the two of them hurriedly held an incomplete elixir. If all of this can be refined, wouldn't it be possible to even choose a dog to refine pills? Usually, this is the truth, but many people still subconsciously overlook the fact that the refining characteristics of the 100 gu cast Yuan Dan are not in the form of pills. Second senior brother's forehead has already sprouted beads of sweat as big as beans. Simply close your eyes and wait quietly for the host's trial. The host pinched the pill between his fingers and looked carefully through the mask. It was like a homeroom teacher correcting homework, and he began to pick up the problem with the pill. The heat is too high, but the efficacy is slightly poor. The pill is not sealed with wax. A bunch of problems were pointed out, and the second senior brother's legs were already weak. As for the senior brother standing on the side, he couldn't help but hold his breath. The host raised his head and looked up and down at Zhang Jun, confirming that his demeanor was normal. He immediately smiled and said, however, this is indeed a 100 gu forging Yuan Dan. No way out. Victory. Accompanied by the host's confirmation. The main audience suddenly fell silent, while the demonic audience erupted with thunderous cheers. This is a result that nobody expected. We won. Did we win? Second senior brother opened his eyes and stared blankly at Zhang Jun. Then, as if going crazy, he slapped himself hard twice in the face. It wasn't until I felt the burning pain on my face that I woke up like a dream. I grabbed Zhang Jun's arm and said, "We won, junior brother. We won." After receiving Zhang Jun's nod, the second senior brother turned around ecstatically and rushed to the front of the first senior brother, repeating the previous nonsense. The senior brother's face was filled with an indescribable excitement, but at the same time, he gave Zhang Jun a complex look. The familiar face was filled with confidence and a calm smile, but it gave the senior brother a strong sense of unfamiliarity. However, he didn't have time to think much and his body shook violently, almost being roughly pulled down by his second senior brother. "Quick, take a look at the third one." At this moment, second senior brother finally remembered the life and death of third senior brother Huang Mao, who had made great contributions this time. The two quickly rushed up to the altar. At this moment, the three junior brothers on the altar lay motionless. They were originally handsome and strong, but after 3 cursed trials, they were now skinny and bony. My whole body has lost all its hair, and my skin has turned black. I curl up together, and if I don't look carefully, I might think it's an old dog abandoned by someone on the roadside. The only consolation is that he is still alive. Junior brother, you've really suffered a lot. The second senior brother carefully picked him up and said, "When I go back this time, I will definitely give you more meat to eat and make good supplements for you." Can this unlucky third senior brother make it up for it? Zhang Jun didn't know, but he looked sideways at Taoist Yushu. Master, we don't want to die." The golden boy and jade girl fell into the arms of Taoist Yushu. Taoist Yushu's expression was gloomy, and the flesh on his face had begun to crack open. His body was decomposing at a visible speed to the naked eye. After reading the results from the host, the contract has become effective. Even if Gu Yuan did not take action, Taoist Yushu would still be unable to escape death. "It's my teacher who harmed you all." Taoist Yushu lightly stroked the forehead of the 2 Taoist children, took a deep breath, and suddenly slapped their foreheads with his palm. Pop! With the sound of bones shattering, the Taoist duo of the golden boy and jade girl collapsed into their arms without a sound. "Gu Yuan. I misread you. You are not a reckless man, you are the most intelligent person." As the deadline approached, Taoist Yushu praised Gu Yuan instead. I have no chance of winning a duel with you. If you want to win, you must try your best to gain an advantage, even at the cost of your lifespan, by forcefully increasing your luck. So you've already taken this step, haven't you? Gu Yuan. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in the audience was also stunned. But upon careful consideration, this inference seems somewhat reasonable. For a moment, everyone's gaze towards Gu Yuan also showed a slight change. Sure enough. Taoist Yushu frowned and began to complete his guess. So, from the beginning, you had to work hard just to make me ignore the fact that your disciple is a master of alchemy. Gu Yuan. Yes, it's like this, it must be like this. Taoist Yushu raised his head, hoping to find clues from Gu Yuan's face to support his thoughts. Because he couldn't accept it, he was defeated by a non-mainstream demon disciple. In contrast, he prefers to die under the calculation of Gu Yuan. However, to his disappointment, Gu Yuan did not answer him and slowly raised the bone knife in his hand. Puff. In the main audience, everyone let out a deep and long sigh. Gu Yuan killed Taoist Yushu, but there was no joy on his face. A wisp of malevolent fire between his fingers devoured the bodies of the master and disciple. Just as the flames dissipated, a few intact things remained on the ground. It is the clothing of the master and disciple of Yushu Taoist, as well as their storage bags. The most important thing is the 6th grade magic weapon, the yin-yang fixed empty plate. According to the rules, these things are now all spoils of war belonging to the ancient Yuan individuals. Putting away all these things, Gu Yuan turned around and came to Zhang Jun and the 4 of them. Rao sure knew that the person in front of him was his own master, but when Gu Yuan came with a knife, Zhang Jun still felt the pressure of the mountain. Congratulations, master. We have a great revenge. Senior brother quickly walked forward and congratulated. Congratulations, master. We have a great revenge. Upon hearing this, Zhang Jun and his second senior brother immediately embraced their fists and congratulated each other in a similar manner. Gu Yuan glanced at Zhang Jun and then at second senior brother. When he saw the submissive appearance of his second disciple, he turned his gaze to Zhang Jun. The kind of straightforward gaze fixed on him made Zhang Jun clench his fists, and he didn't know what his master was thinking, whether he would be like those cult lunatics in TV dramas, and strike himself with one knife. Well done, this is a reward for you. Gu Yuan casually handed a storage bag to Zhang Jun. This made the senior brother stand on the side and couldn't help but be stunned for a few seconds. As for the second senior brother, he could only cast an envious look, but it was only envy. After all, they all have to rely on this junior brother to survive this time, and the reward is naturally deserved. Master Xie. Gu Yuan nodded, didn't ask any further questions, said to go back early, then turned around and left. After Master Gu Yuan left, Zhang Jun looked at the storage bag in his hand. I actually saw a question mark again on it. Secondary storage bag. There is a space of 5 square meters inside, and you only need to try to open it silently to open the storage bag and access items. This item can be upgraded in the arena. Task. Upgrade secondary storage bags to low-level storage bags. Task difficulty. Simple. Task reward. 1 Chongling pill, 1 wishing star. It's a bit interesting. When I first completed the task, I obtained the first level of basic alchemy. By the time the task was completed, I had already integrated it into my mind and quickly mastered it. In addition to the basic principles of alchemy, there are also 10 low-level alchemy formulas. For example, De Li Wan, Zixia Dan, Shenbing Li Qi Dan, and so on, but these are all low-level elixirs, not even a first grade. This Chongling Dan Fong seems to be a good thing. He tried it and found that it was filled with 1,000 spirit stones. Upon seeing this, Zhang Jun's heart moved as he remembered the previous duel where Huang Mao had said that these spirit stones could be exchanged for items in the arena. The previous game was a gambling battle of 3,000 spirit stones, and this time the master gave himself 1,000 directly, which should not be a small sum. Junior brother, let's hurry up and not delay the next duel match. Second senior brother spoke up to urge. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net. He is holding his third junior brother and needs to be taken back to heal his injuries as soon as possible. Oh. Wait a moment. Zhang Jun nodded and suddenly remembered something. He asked second senior brother to wait for him and quickly ran towards the opposite Dan furnace. He opened the alchemy furnace and a purple light shone on his face from inside. In the audience, upon seeing this, everyone couldn't help but secretly curse this kid as a chicken thief. In this alchemy furnace is the purple cloud pill refined by the children under the tutelage of Taoist Yushu. I saw purple chi surging around the pill, which is a truly rare 5th grade spiritual pill. Fortunately, I was one step ahead, otherwise looking at the already formed pill, Zhang Jun felt a wave of fear in his heart. He, who has already learned basic alchemy, can tell at a glance that this pill has been formed for a while now. That is to say, if it weren't for refining the 100 gu forging Yuan Dan first, as long as there was a slight delay in it, the people who died now would be them. It's really close. But now this pill belongs to me. Zhang Jun directly took out the pill and held it in his hand. The freshly baked pill still carried a scorching heat. At the same time, there is also a white question mark on the pill. Defective purple cloud pill, the 5th grade spiritual pill has the effects of harmonizing yin and yang, restoring dark damage, enhancing cultivation, and so on. The alchemist is too restless, to the point that this pill is not perfect. If it is dissolved in warm water and mixed with an appropriate amount of deer antler, purple artemisia, and medicinal herbs, the medicinal properties can be restored to perfect quality. Task. Modulate purple cloud pill to achieve perfect quality. Task difficulty. Normal. Task reward. Control pill meridian. Chapter 1, A Wishing Star. Chapter 8. Damaged stove. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Earned it. Zhang Jun exclaimed in his heart that he was earning blood. He absorbed basic alchemy techniques and was well aware of the value of the 5th grade spiritual pill. Moreover, this pill has the effects of regulating yin and yang, restoring dark injuries, and enhancing cultivation. The previous tip when refining the 100 gu casting Yuan Dan was that when returning to reality, one can use the wishing star to bring back the things here. Perhaps this pill can save one's own life, but it's not necessarily true. Zhang Jun took a deep breath and his eyes became fiery. Ants still steal life. If it weren't for their own illness, it would be incurable. How could they give up on themselves? Carefully throwing the pill into the storage bag, Zhang Jun followed second senior brother and others out of the arena. After passing through the passage under the arena, there is a corridor similar to a commercial street. Various shops come into view. Ling Yao Fong Ling Bao Gu Qi Zhen Lu. There are many samples placed in front of various shops, which also opened Zhang Jun's eyes. I even saw some strange-looking monsters openly selling in front of the store. At the end of the corridor, there stands a huge building door. The entrance of the building was blurry, as if a special energy had formed a unique passage. However, standing outside, I couldn't see anything clearly, and could only see people from different sects walking out of it, or strode in like shooting stars. Zhang Jun asked his second senior brother and found out that this building gate leads to the main sect's residences in the arena. Junior brother, do you need anything to buy? Second senior brother turned around to look at Zhang Jun, who was stopping step by step, and couldn't help but ask. Second senior brother, I want to upgrade my storage bag and also go to Taobao to buy a pill furnace. Do you know where to go? Zhang Jun has no intention of going back with them. Everything here is very new to him, and he wants to stay here for a while longer. By the way, I completed the other 2 tasks on my hand. Upgrade the storage bag. Second senior brother pondered for a moment and said, "Go to the spirit pattern pavilion. Although it's a bit expensive, the spirit pattern masters there are very reliable. Follow this road and you'll find them. As for the exchange of elixirs, take the second intersection down and turn up. There is a small alley where major sects trading areas are located. Junior brother, you can go there and take a look." "Oh, okay." Zhang Jun nodded and agreed. At this moment, the senior brother on the side took out a jade plaque and threw it to Zhang Jun. "You didn't bring the Yuling back to the base. Take mine first, and I'll share it with your second senior brother." Zhang Jun took the jade plaque over, and the black jade plaque was made of unknown material, with the words Wusheng written on it. The senior brother reminded with a cold face, "Be careful. Although private fights are strictly prohibited in the neighborhood, you just killed Taoist Yushu. Be careful not to be targeted by righteous people. Don't wander around. Just go back quickly." Although this cold-faced senior brother looks like he is far away from others, he takes good care of himself in terms of details. After nodding his head, Zhang Jun put away the token and watched as his senior brother and his companions walked into the building door in front of him. Their figures flickered and disappeared into the misty chaos. "Go ahead and complete the task first. I have 2 tasks on hand now. One is the blending pill, which requires purchasing spiritual medicine by oneself. Just now I saw a spiritual medicine workshop selling spiritual medicine, which should have the spiritual medicine I need inside. Another task is to upgrade the storage bag. But since we know the place, this matter is not urgent. Anyway, it's a good idea to go to the local market first and see if you can find a suitable elixir." After making up his mind, Zhang Jun followed the direction suggested by his second senior brother. At the second intersection, he took a few steps up and, as expected, found a narrow alley. The entrance to the alley is very narrow. If it weren't for second senior brother's special explanation of the entrance, I'm afraid I wouldn't have noticed it even if I walked this way. As soon as you enter the alley, on the left side, there are completely street vendors randomly placed on the ground. The familiar scene reminded Zhang Jun of last night's ghost market. Out of his curiosity about the world and the impression left by the night market, Zhang Jun really likes this street-style market. He casually followed the crowd towards the inside, glancing over the stalls around him, hoping to find a suitable alchemy. However, upon closer inspection, the Dan furnace was not found, but instead many items with question marks were discovered. For example, a flying sword with defects can be repaired to obtain a 3-talent sword technique. Part 1, there is also a jade flute, which requires playing a perfect set of Phoenix Seekers. After completion, you can obtain a score. Most of the question marks on these items are white, but Zhang Jun found occasional blue ones. Compared to the white question marks, the tasks given by those blue question marks are particularly eerie. For example, in front of a mirror, light a candle and shout a woman's name in front of the mirror. Although the reward is a set of techniques called Tianhua Sha, Zhang Jun doesn't think it's reliable no matter how he looks at it. Moreover, the difficulty of this task is marked with danger in red. Maybe we have to get ourselves involved. Zhang Jun doesn't want to take any risks as his childhood has just begun to take off. There are also some items that provide various tasks, even requiring users to kill enough people to complete them. Zhang Jun only glanced at these items and wouldn't take a second look. Concentrate on finding a suitable elixir. As the saying goes, 1,000 birds in the forest are better than a bird in the hand. Being able to make progress in alchemy is of great help, both in this gaming world and in reality. As for other tasks, you can wait for yourself to stabilize and slowly explore. Friend Dao, please stay a step. At this moment, someone chased after and stopped Zhang Jun. What's up? Seeing the rushing figure, Zhang Jun cautiously took a step back and distanced himself from the other person. The newcomer is of the same age as himself, with a pale face, withered yellow hair, a malnourished appearance, and wearing a purple Taoist robe. Don't misunderstand, Taoist friends. I, Lu Qiu, am a disciple of the Five Poisons sect. Today, I had the privilege of watching the battle between Taoist friends and Qingyun sect, and I greatly admire them. Therefore, I want to make some friends with them. Oh. Seeing Zhang Jun's cold expression, Lu Qiu instead showed great enthusiasm. Taoist friends come here, but they need to exchange some magic tools. Well, passing by, I want to come and take a look. So coincidentally, I am quite familiar with this and can lead the way for my fellow Taoist. Li Qiu fully utilized his familiar thick skin, but Zhang Jun thought for a moment but did not refuse. Anyway, he had no intention of rushing back to reality, so he just took a stroll and had a look. As the two walked forward, Li Qiu enthusiastically introduced Zhang Jun to various situations in this alley. Rather than being a gathering place for disciples of various sects and sects, it is more like a bootlegging den. Some disciples who win in the arena often have many magical tools and other items on their opponents, and Yu reading www.yuyukeangshu.net will become their spoils of war. But precisely because they are spoils of war, some spoils often have damage and cannot be sold at a good price. So they will send a portion of their unused spoils here to quickly sell and monetize at extremely low prices. But if you have a mentality of picking up cheap goods, it is likely that you will be brutally slaughtered, or even end up with no money or resources. Li Qiu is obviously an old fogey, and quietly cast a glance at Zhang Jun. Zhang Jun followed his gaze and saw various magical tools placed on the left side of the street stall. This person is called Fang Zuan, a famous second-tier vendor of his generation. Despite the things on his street stall, everyone is full of spirituality, and 8 out of 10 items have problems. Zhang Junruo nodded thoughtfully, his gaze roughly scanning, and he was really attracted by something. A Dan stove. The Dan stove is not big, it looks slightly larger than an electric rice cooker, and there is also a light blue question mark on the Dan stove. As Zhang Jun's gaze focused, information about the Danlu immediately surfaced in front of him. Damaging heavenly stove, I don't know what material to use to refine it. Although it is a magical tool, it is extremely strange. Every time I refine pills, half of them will be consumed. So much so that all holders often wish to smash it. But every time the pill is swallowed, the spirituality of the pill furnace increases by 1 point, and the effect of alchemy will be greatly improved. You can try actively feeding it with low-grade pills, feeding 10 at a time, which can make your next alchemy more effective with half the effort. Task. Feed it enough to eat 100. Task difficulty. Simple task reward. Obtain the special alchemy technique Spirit Quenching Hand, Part 1, with 1 wishing star. Chapter 9. Quenching Spirit Hand. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This thing is quite interesting. Zhang Jun looked at the information and tasks on the Danlu, and after some deliberation, he decided to buy this Danlu. With a theoretical foundation in alchemy, he is well aware of how precious this type of alchemy furnace can be in increasing the probability of pill success. Are you familiar with this guy? Not bad, I've dealt with it a few times. Go and take a look. Zhang Jun walked up to the booth and glanced around at other items. Hey, fake drug dealer, why are you here? As soon as Fang Zuan saw the business coming, he stood up happily. However, when he saw Li Qiu beside him, his face turned black and he sat down impatiently. After all, everyone knows the root and the bottom, and people who deal with this area all year round are much more casual when speaking. You're a fake seller, don't ruin my reputation. Li Qiu angrily rebuked with a displeased expression on his face. Hee. You can be a person. Last time they asked you to buy poison, but you gave them a pack of aphrodisiacs. Oh my goodness, that night your enemy turned into a lover. Now that your child is full moon, you are even more effective than an elderly woman. Fang Zuan sneered with a cold face. Li Qiu was exposed and immediately blushed. If it weren't for Zhang Jun around her, she would have cursed loudly at this moment. I deliberately helped them resolve their grievances. When will the retribution come? Ha! Feng Zhuoren pouted, too lazy to talk nonsense to him, and looked at Zhang Jun with his eyes. Little brother, you've been watching for a while. Do you have anything you want? We all have good things here. I want to find an elixir. Zhang Jun bluntly stated his purpose. Glancing around the stall, he shook his head and said, there doesn't seem to be anything suitable for you here. Let's do it next time. Zhang Jun said he wanted to leave. Sigh, there are, these are all top-quality Dan stoves. Feng Zhuoren saw that business was about to leave, so he quickly stopped Zhang Jun and pointed to several alchemy burners on the stall. Zhang Jun glanced suspiciously at Feng Zhuoren and said, this is also a furnace. You don't know how to frame me, do you? How could it be, little brother? If you don't know the goods, don't say my things are inferior. Feng Zhuoren suddenly became unhappy. Before Zhang Jun could speak, Li Qiu immediately became unhappy and pointed to Feng Zhuoren's nose in front of him, cursing. Who is ignorant and blinded your dog's eyes? This little brother is the alchemist master. You were not in the arena just now, and I didn't know that this little brother used alchemy to kill the Jade Shu Taoist of Qinyan sect. What? Feng Zhuoren was somewhat surprised when he heard this and looked at Zhang Jun again. He immediately frowned and said, you are a disciple of Wuxing sect. Have you ever heard of someone who can refine pills in Wuxing sect? This is called hiding clumsiness, otherwise how can we achieve ultimate victory? Li Qiu crossed his waist with both hands and vividly explained how Zhang Jun had just completed the incomplete prescription. This surprised Feng Zhuoren, but he was not intimidated by Lu Qiu's words. He coughed lightly and brought the topic back. Even if you are a master of alchemy, brother, my stove is still a masterpiece. Oh. Zhang Jun looked at Feng Zhuoren with full confidence and picked up a stove in his hand, focusing his gaze on the white question mark on the stove. Soon, the information about this stove appeared completely under Zhang Jun's gaze. After pretending to take a closer look, he couldn't help but sneer and say, you call this a boutique. This furnace is made of diamond iron and should have been of high quality, but there is a flaw underneath the furnace, which causes the alchemy fire to not gather and the fire gas to leak out. Using this furnace to refine alchemy not only makes it difficult to form alchemy, but also carries the risk of exploding the furnace. After Zhang Jun finished speaking, he looked at Feng Zhuoren with a smile on his face and presented the stove to him. Are you planning to sell this stove to your enemy? Alright, your elixir can still explode. You're even more ruthless than me. Li Qiu sneered and mocked on the side. Feng Zhuoren froze for a few seconds and quickly picked up the stove, speaking awkwardly, this is an exception, everything else is good. Is that so? Zhang Jun's gaze swept over and he picked up another furnace. Do you need me to tell you about this? No need, brother. It's not authentic anymore, my small business. Feng Zhuoren quickly pulled Zhang Jun aside and lowered his voice, brother, feel free to choose what you like, just treat it as if I'm giving it to you. Zhang Jun smiled, and the other party's impression of benevolence was actually quite good. He picked up the heavenly burnt stove and said, tell me the real price, I'll come often in the future. Feng Zhuoren originally wanted to be polite, but Zhang Jun remained resolute and offered a cost price of 50 spirit stones. Brother, it's important to be meticulous. If you have any future needs, feel free to come. I can find any magic tools or materials you want, and the price is absolutely reasonable. Feng Zhuoren smiled and collected the spirit stone, not forgetting to boast about himself. There's a chance, Zhang Jun replied with a smile. In fact, he could have taken the heavenly burner and left directly, but it would seem too crude. Moreover, Zhang Jun discovered that many of the magical tools on Feng Zhuoren's stall were marked with white question marks. In the future, he could come and buy 2 items to enhance his strength, and there was no need to make a one-time deal. With the elixir, the rest of the matter becomes much simpler. Zhang Jun stopped wandering in the alley and turned to prepare for the spirit pattern pavilion. However, before going, Zhang Jun turned around and looked at Li Qiu beside him. For this enthusiastic person, Zhang Jun may not be averse, but he also doesn't like the other person following him in his heart. I have some personal matters to attend to. If you have nothing else, let's say goodbye here, Taoist friend. Ah. Li Qiu's expression was somewhat unnatural. She opened her mouth, but for a while, she couldn't speak. Is there any problem? Well. Li Qiu saw Zhang Jun looking at him, stomped his foot, gritted his teeth, and said, to be honest, I came to find you a bit selfish. Please help me refine the 100 gu cast Yuan Dan. Zhang Jun remained silent and gestured for Lu Qiu to continue speaking. By Gu Zhu Yuan Dan, although it is a third-grade pill, there are too few people who can refine it. If you are willing to put in effort to refine it, I am willing to purchase it at a high price. After finishing speaking, Li Qiu carefully looked at Zhang Jun. What disappointed him was that the expression on Zhang Jun's face didn't seem to change. I've been very busy lately, but when I have free time, I can help you refine some. Upon hearing this, Li Qiu was overjoyed and handed Zhang Jun a stack of transmission symbols. It is stated that as long as this talisman is lit in the arena, he will immediately receive a message if he is here. Zhang Jun put away this stack of transmitted notes, bid farewell to Lu Qiu, and immediately rushed to the Lingwen Pavilion without stopping. Lingwen Pavilion is a place with the ability to upgrade items. There are dedicated spiritual pattern masters who can upgrade items such as magic tools and even treasures. Of course, the prices of items upgraded at different stages vary greatly. The sign hanging in front of the gate clearly indicates the prices for upgrading items at different stages. Like magic tools, from 1st to 3rd grade, each level only requires 200 spirit stones. 3 to 6 levels require 500 spirit stones for each level. 6 to 9 levels, each level requires 800 spirit stones. As for the level of magic weapon, it requires an in-store interview. This thing makes more money than alchemy. Zhang Jun glanced at the price list and couldn't help but feel a surge of envy in his heart. Upgrading a secondary storage bag is not expensive, it only requires 100 spirit stones, which looks reasonable in price. But when he paid and handed over the storage bag to the spiritual tattoo master, the spiritual tattoo master only wiped on the storage bag and then threw it back to Zhang Jun. Is that all right? All right. Zhang Jun took a closer look and indeed, the secondary storage bag had successfully transformed into a low-level storage bag. At the same time, I also received a prompt to complete the task. Task completed, 1 Chongling pill and 1 wishing star. As the prompt sounded, a convenient pill called Chongling Dan appeared in my mind. Chongling pill. 3rd grade pill. It is of great help to disciples in the Qi cultivation realm, as it can accelerate the speed of gathering Qi and quickly break through the shackles. Zhang Jun absorbed the elixir and glanced at the hand of the spiritual tattoo master in front of him. He couldn't help but mutter to himself. This money is easy for Tai Tingyang to earn. In the future, I also need to find an opportunity to learn the skills of a spiritual pattern master. After completing the task, Zhang Jun headed straight to the pharmacy he had seen before. As soon as he entered the door, the assistant in charge of selling spiritual medicine enthusiastically walked up. What kind of spiritual medicine do you need, sir? We also have many high-quality pills here, with reasonable prices and affordable prices. Jade deer antler, purple artemisia annua, and saliva-generating herbs. Zhang Jun said in one breath more than 10 kinds of spiritual medicines. There are both purple cloud pills used for blending and spiritual medicines used to refine Chongling pills. Also, I need a batch of 1 quality pills. The efficacy doesn't need to be too good, as long as the price is more affordable. With the foundation of alchemy, Zhang Jun had a basic understanding of elixirs in his mind. Pills are divided into 9 grades. The first grade is the lowest grade pill, the second grade is a bit valuable, and the third grade is a relatively mainstream pill, with prices ranging from high to low. Third grade or above, the price will be very outrageous. For example, the purple cloud pill in my hand is a 5th grade pill, which is extremely rare. We have a batch of first grade pills here, called blood strengthening and muscle enhancing pills. They are cheap and 1 spirit stone is enough. How much do you need, sir? Take 100 first. At first glance, the guy saw that it was a big deal, so he couldn't help but laugh happily. After learning that Zhang Jun wanted 100, he even offered him a 10% discount. Adding the spiritual medicines that Zhang Jun needed, there were a total of 620 spiritual stones. Before leaving, Zhang Jun also gave away some vacant Dan bottles, wax seals, and other gifts. After a trip, most of the spiritual stones in his hand had already been spent. The speed of spending money like flowing water would have been painful for an average person for a long time, but Zhang Jun didn't care. Money can only be called money when it is spent, let alone after completing tasks and acquiring more skills. Do you still worry about not having money? Zhang Jun, satisfied with his belongings, came to the gate of the world and took out the jade plaque that his senior brother had given him before, holding it in his hand. I don't know what Wushenman really look like. With curiosity and anticipation, Zhang Jun stepped into the gate of the world with 1 foot, and in front of him was a grey world. At this moment, a strange fluorescence emitted from the jade plaque in his hand, forming a pulling force that pulled him forward. Before long, a white light appeared before his eyes. Zhang Jun widened his eyes and watched as the white light approached, waiting for the light to dissipate and the grey light to shine down. A few small buildings, a dark palace, with no sun, moon, or stars above, and even no soil below, are lifeless houses. Give Zhang Jun a feeling that this place is more like a prison. As soon as Zhang Jun stepped on, he felt many gazes casting from the dark corners. Junior brother, junior brother. Zhang Jun turned around and saw his second senior brother running towards him with a Taoist robe in hand. Junior brother, you came back just in time. I was about to go find you and tell you a great news. Second senior brother pulled Zhang Jun aside and said, Elderly heard that you have a 5th grade purple cloud pill in your hand. He is willing to give you 3,000 spirit stones and 3 rounds of vacation to exchange for it. Zhang Jun was taken aback by the words. He could understand 3,000 spirit stones. What does 3 rounds of vacation mean? What does 3 rounds of vacation mean? Faced with this young junior brother's inquiry, the second senior brother didn't think there was anything unexpected. After all, the young junior brother is usually lazy, and it is normal for him to not know some things. We have a 3-day round of the arena here, with 3 rounds of vacation, which means you won't have to participate in the arena 3 times. Oh, it's not for sale. Zhang Jun refused directly. 3,000 spirit stones, although a generous windfall, are far less valuable than a purple cloud pill. Moreover, I still need this pill to save my life in reality. This. The second senior brother looked puzzled and lowered his voice, saying, Young junior brother, our master will be locked down after he comes back. I don't know when we can leave the level. Don't underestimate the importance of small things at this time. Zhang Jun's face was slightly cold. He knew what the second elder martial brother meant, but he just chuckled. What are you afraid of? Troops for the enemy, earth for floods. If you have any moves, I will follow them. Ah, you. Senior brother, can you help me find a secluded place? I want to take a break. The second senior brother saw that Zhang Juntai was determined not to give up the 5th grade pill, so he could only sigh and say, All right, let me help you, Zhou Xian, with elderly. You can come to my room to rest first. Speaking, the second senior brother pointed to an inconspicuous small room on the left and gave him the key to enter and exit the room. Thank you, senior brother. Zhang Jun took the key and walked into the room without looking back, leaving only second senior brother with a bitter face, unsure of how to deal with elder Li's unpleasant expression. The room of the second senior brother was very small, and Zhang Jun held the access control. Upon entering, he only saw a simple bed, a stone-carved table, and a chair. It's so crude that it's almost unbelievable. However, it is already sufficient for oneself to use access control to close the room. Take out the damaged stove from the storage bag and place it on the table. The shape of the stove is very simple, like a square pagoda, wide at the bottom and narrow at the top. It seems to be carved with the texture on top, but it is blurry and unrecognizable. Zhang Jun tried to follow the basic alchemy method, placing his hands on the stove, closing his eyes and trying to connect with the alchemy stove, using his own yang energy to light the fire. The alchemy furnace in the arena is connected to a ground fire, and you only need to twist the mechanism on the alchemy furnace to control the alchemy fire. On weekdays, if an alchemist wants to refine pills, they need to use their own qi to control the flames of the alchemy furnace. This is the most fundamental step for an alchemist to get started. It is also the standard for determining whether this person has a talent for alchemy. As he calmed down, a simple and faint sense connected him to the heavenly burner. Slowly, the induction became stronger and stronger, and Zhang Jun could feel that his breath was quickly being sucked away by the alchemy furnace. At the same time, a faint flame gradually lit up in the furnace. It's done. Zhang Jun opened his eyes and looked at the faint flames rising from the furnace in front of him, slowly trying to gradually raise them. In no time, the temperature in the room gradually rose, and the small alchemy stove was now burning red. Upon seeing this, Zhang Jun quickly took out the prepared blood-strengthening and muscle-enhancing pill and tried to throw it into the alchemy furnace. I saw Dan Yuan fall into the furnace, and in a moment, he was incinerated by Dan fire without a trace. Seeing this, Zhang Jun decided to throw all the pills in his hand in one breath and complete this task first. Dingling 100 pills, but in an instant they turned into liquid in the alchemy furnace, and then merged into the cracks of the furnace. At this moment, Zhang Junming felt a slight change in the alchemy in front of him, and the blurry texture on the alchemy seemed to be much clearer. Task completed. Obtain the alchemy skill Spirit Quenching Hand, Part 1, and a Wishing Star. Chapter 10. Offline. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Accompanied by the sound of task completion prompts, a wonderful image suddenly appeared in Zhang Jun's mind. The graphics scattered and transformed into unique runes. Although Zhang Jun did not understand these runes, he could clearly feel the meaning behind them. This is a mysterious and wonderful feeling that can only be understood but not expressed in words. When he opened his eyes again, he slowly lifted his palm and gently grasped it with his fingertips. A dense golden texture appeared on the palm. How amazing! Zhang Jun took out some elixirs from his storage bag and gently grabbed them. Suddenly, a glimmer of fluorescence was taken up from the spiritual medicine, and in an instant, the originally vibrant and spiritual medicine had withered and turned into dry and cracked waste. Looking at the spiritual light pinched at his fingertips, Zhang Jun exclaimed in his heart that it was magical. It is truly a miracle. If we follow the basic alchemy, in order to refine elixirs, it is necessary to use Dan fire to warm and boil the medicinal properties of the spiritual medicine. But now with this technique, I don't need to be so troublesome. I can take out all the essence of the miraculous medicine at will with a simple grasp. So, refining pills on my own is simply twice the result with half the effort. I don't know how much trouble I saved. Unfortunately, this magic only has the first part and not the second part. Ha! Zhang Jun lowered his head and glanced at the damaging heavenly furnace, only to find that the question mark on the furnace was still there. The information of the lost heaven furnace has not changed, but the task has actually been updated. Task. Feed it enough to eat 1000 pills, a third-grade pill. Task difficulty. Normal task reward. Obtain the special alchemy technique, Quenching Spirit Hand, Part 2, with 2 wishing stars. Surprisingly, there is still a follow-up to this task. Zhang Jun was surprised, but even more delighted. Although the difficulty was a bit high, it was only in terms of funding. As long as one can obtain a complete soul-quenching hand, alchemy is a matter of pinching hands for oneself. Take out the purple summer pill. This pill was held in Zhang Jun's hand, emitting a faint purple light. Upon closer inspection, one would notice some small textures on the pill. If you want to sell the 5th grade spiritual pill, you need at least thousands of spiritual stones. It's ridiculous that the elder surnamed Li wants to buy it for 3,000 yuan, purely for the sake of farting. Send the spiritual pill into the alchemy furnace, and under Zhang Jun's careful control, the alchemy fire becomes softer. Slowly dissolve this pill again. Previously, I didn't have much confidence in the task of concocting pills, but now with the blessing of the Quenching Spirit Hand, this process has become simpler. Line up the needed elixirs and grasp them with a light hand. At once, the essence of these elixirs is easily absorbed by Zhang Jun. After Zhang Jun sent the essence of these miraculous medicines into the heaven damage furnace, a strong smell of medicine soon came to the nose with the burning of the heaven damage furnace. Zhang Jun just took a sniff and immediately felt refreshed and comfortable all over. But as he followed closely, he felt a bit uneasy. The fragrance of Dan overflows, which is a major taboo in basic alchemy. Not good, we need to quickly collect pills. As the fragrance grew stronger and stronger, the entire alchemy furnace was filled with a bright purple light. Zhang Jun's face slightly changed, and he quickly wanted to increase the alchemy fire and gather the pills. Ding ding ding. However, at this moment, wisps of spiritual patterns flickered on the losing heavenly furnace, creating a peculiar force that suppressed the medicinal fragrance and prevented it from overflowing. With the assistance of the heavenly furnace, Zhang Jun immediately increased the Dan fire and quickly formed the Dan. In a blink of an eye, the purple light in the Dan fire gathered, and a dark purple Dan pill suspended in the Dan furnace. The sound of completing the task followed closely in Zhang Jun's ear as he took out the pill and put it in the bottle. Task completed. Control Pill Meridian Chapter 1, A Wishing Star, accompanied by the sound of prompts, 1,000-word scripture appeared in Zhang Jun's mind. On the journey of cultivating immortals, there are countless divine powers, condensing qi into pills. The primordial gods use the names of various heavenly gods to control the power of heaven and earth. Although the pill path is an external path, there are also methods to restrain the spirits of heaven and earth for their own use, unlike before, where other skills can be understood in a blink of an eye. This article on controlling Dan meridians, although only 1,000 words long, has allowed him to fully comprehend it for over an hour. When he opened his eyes again, he couldn't help but feel a great shock in his heart about the Dan meridian. This is not a top-notch cultivation technique, but a technique. It is the use of the spirituality of pills, combined with unique techniques, to unleash techniques beyond one's own realm. Unfortunately, there is still only the first part, not the second part, but it is enough for oneself to use. At least next time participating in the arena, if encountering a fight, I also have a means of self-protection. Zhang Jun took out all the other spiritual medicines he had purchased, spread them out, and then attempted to refine the Chongling pill. With the assistance of Quenching Spirit Hands and damaging the heavenly furnace, Zhang Jun's alchemy refining was as smooth as a fish in water. The mixing and refining of pills have no obstacles at all. According to the prescription, it takes at least 1 day to make a pot of Lingdan, as most of the time is spent on cooking the spiritual medicine. Zhang Jun only needs to lightly grasp with his quenched spirit hand to omit the most difficult step of alchemy, and then merge it through the refining of the heavenly furnace. In just 1 hour, he had already refined a batch of exquisite Chongling pills. Zhang Jun took a breath and felt his head start to spin. Not only physical exhaustion, but also a feeling of being evacuated mentally. Alchemy is a personal activity that not only consumes one's own essence and spirit, but also has a huge consumption on the spirit. Pick up a Chongling pill and throw it into your mouth. The pill melts at the entrance, and as soon as it enters the stomach, it feels like a hot breath instantly seeps into one's limbs and internal organs, making the whole person feel warm. Before Zhang Jun could enjoy it for a while, the sound of prompts from the game came. Your stay time is only 10 minutes left, please prepare to go offline. Upon hearing the prompt, Zhang Jun suddenly remembered that after completing the competition in the arena, he could only stay here for 8 hours. I didn't expect time to pass so quickly. Zhang Jun put away the things on the table, greedily took a deep breath, and lay on the cold stone bed until the countdown to being forced to go offline ended. Suddenly, his vision began to blur. You are about to go offline. We will remind you to go online 24 hours before the start of the next competition. According to second senior brother, there is a round of arena every 3 days, which means that after returning to reality, there will be at least 2 days. Do you want to use wishing star? Use. With his confirmation, several things appeared before his eyes, all of which belonged to him. All the clothes, shoes, storage bags, and all the items inside the storage bags on my body are revealed to me. Zhang Jun carefully examined the items in front of him. The number of wishing stars required for different items varies. For example, a storage bag requires a total of 20 wishing stars. Even more exaggerated, there are 50 wishing stars. This is just the cost of bringing out the game. If you want to bring these things back from reality, you have to pay a new fee. The only thing that pleased him was that the purple cloud pill only needed 3 wishing stars. I have completed a total of 5 tasks this time. Complete an arena, refine the 100 gu cast Yuan Dan, mix the purple cloud Dan, upgrade the storage bag, and feed the full damage heavenly stove. I have obtained a total of 7 wishing stars in my hand, which may not be abundant, but it is enough to take away the purple cloud pill. Otherwise, coming back this time will be a waste of work. He reached out his palm and grabbed the jade bottle containing the purple cloud pill to the side. As his fingers touched the jade bottle, his consciousness was quickly engulfed by the darkness. Until a piercing pain hit, Zhang Jun's eyes blurred and he vaguely saw the antique game console emitting sparks. But before he could see it clearly, his consciousness blurred again under the stinging pain. I don't know how long it took, but the burning sensation in his internal organs grew stronger and made his consciousness gradually clear. Pain. When Zhang Jun opened his eyes again, he found himself lying in the hospital. His abdomen and chest were tingling with burning pain, making him feel like he was about to die. The nurse on the side was startled by the sudden roar and stared blankly at Zhang Jun, who had woken up for a few seconds before realizing it. She ran all the way to the door and said, "Doctor, wake up, wake up." Looking at the ceiling of the hospital, Zhang Jun rubbed his head and didn't know why he was here. But is everything just now true? It won't be have a dream. At this moment, he felt something in his hand. He picked it up and saw that it was the jade bottle containing the purple cloud pill. Looking at the jade bottle in his hand, Zhang Jun tightly grasped it and blinked his eyes. I really brought it out. His breathing gradually became rapid, and he opened the jade bottle. The familiar pill appeared in his palm with a faint purple light. This thing should improve my weak body. Taking advantage of the absence of both the doctor and nurse, Zhang Jun quickly stuffed the pill into his mouth. At the entrance of the pill, it didn't melt as hard as the Chongling pill. Instead, it was very hard. Zhang Jun widened his eyes and kept secreting sweet saliva. It took a lot of effort to swallow the pill into his stomach. Damn it, TN is so hard that I almost choked on this thing. Hasty. Zhang Jun coughed a few times and lay down again. In no time, I felt like something was jumping in my abdomen. Dong. 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 Zhang Jun placed his hand on his stomach, feeling as if he had an extra frog inside. Every time he jumped, a cool substance came out and flowed into his body. Subsequently, his whole body was incredibly cool, and the burning sensation in his internal organs was as if it had been extinguished by a basin of cold water, making him feel indescribably comfortable. The jumping sensation in the abdomen not only did not weaken, but also jumped faster and faster. Zhang Jun, who had already relaxed, now feels cold all over. Fortunately, this coldness didn't last long. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net gradually dissipated from his body, and Zhang Jun was not sure about his current situation. However, he sat up from the bed and twisted his body, realizing that his body was not only light, but also seemed to have become stronger than before. It is truly a 5th-grade spiritual pill, but I don't know if it can be considered eradication. Zhang Jun furrowed his brows and remembered what his grandfather and his group had said when he was unconscious that day. He believed he had been cursed. There are pills holding on now. If you don't find a way to unlock the curse, there may be problems in the future. Just thinking about it, the doctor and nurse hurriedly walked in outside the door. Seeing Zhang Jun, who had already woken up, the doctor quickly walked over and placed one hand on his pulse and the other hand on his chest with a stethoscope. Time passed by minute by second, and the doctor's expression gradually became strange from its initial seriousness. He picked up the medical records on the table and carefully examined them. Is there any problem? Well, no, but never drink alcohol in the future. Your organs are failing quickly, and drinking alcohol will only accelerate this process. Additionally, do not engage in vigorous exercise during this period and abstain from sexual activity. It's best to quit smoking as well. After a while, we will introduce a new drug, and you can give it a try. Perhaps it will have an effect on your illness. If it were in the past, Zhang Jun would directly scold the doctor to the point of bloodshed. For a dying person, what else is there to care about? But today Zhang Jun was surprisingly quiet, even attentively listening to every word the doctor said. Oh. Zhang Jun nodded. After instructing Zhang Jun, the doctor walked out of the ward with a gloomy face and muttered to himself, strange, why did the pulse suddenly stabilize?